Good afternoon, everyone. We are convening the Committee on Consumer Protection and Commerce. It is Wednesday, February 18th, 2026, 2 p.m. in conference room 329. First up on the agenda, we have HB 20 relating to lava zone insurance. Take it away, Vice Chair.
Thank you. Before we start testimony, I have a 2-minute timer here, and just ask you to be mindful. I'll try not to cut you off right away, but if it starts going off, I'll ask you to wrap up your remarks. Okay, first is State of Hawaii Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs Insurance Division.
Afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Matt Sujimura on behalf of the Insurance Division. The Insurance Division respectfully opposes HB 20. While we acknowledge that there is an affordability and availability issue with regards to lava zones 1 and 2, the reason for that is simply that lava zones 1 and 2 are the highest rated risk among the USGS zones to be building in. This HB 20, while it would offer a subsidy to property owners within those zones, would not actually do anything to affect the underlying risk or the underlying potential cost of a loss in those lava zones. Additionally, on top of that, the department feels that subsidies for this specific hazard would lend itself to questions being asked. Well, why don't we provide subsidies for other types of hazards? Why don't we provide subsidies for flood zones, for hurricane zones, which that would slowly add up to the point where we would essentially be subsidizing a good chunk of insurance across the state. And lastly, the department is concerned that the bill would run afoul of HICV lingo. Primarily the concern is that Section 2 of the bill would divert funds that currently go into the CRF, and it would repurpose those funds to be going into this lava zone insurance fund, which debatably runs directly in conflict with the ruling under HICV lingo with regards to the use of a regulatory fee. So on that note, the division is happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Kenneth and Donna Walker in support in person. Okay, is there anyone else in person or on Zoom who'd like to testify? Just noting that there are also 37 individuals who submitted testimony in support and 1 individual who submitted in opposition. Members, any questions?
I have one. Thank you. Could I have the insurance division come up? So Matt, what's going on in lava zone 1 and 2? What are homeowners experiencing with the lack of insurance, or is it the high cost of insurance?
I think it's a combination of both, Representative. I think the admitted market, I believe actually there are no authorized insurers currently writing homeowners property insurance within lava zones 1 and 2 for the simple fact that it is essentially not a matter of if, but when a loss will occur. And the loss in lava zones 1 and 2 is generally considered a total loss versus other losses that might happen from water damage or other types of damage or partial.
So the first thing you said was that there's no insurance available. And then
in the authorized market.
In the authorized market.
Yes.
Then what is available?
HPIA and the surplus market.
So with HPIA, what is the average insurance cost for a typical homeowner? Is it around 500?
That I don't know. That I would have to, I would direct that question to the HPIA board.
Well, I'm not talking about HPIA. I'm talking about an average throughout the state. A homeowner who has a single family home, maybe 2 bedrooms, like a typical average, people are paying around $500,000 a year on insurance.
I don't know the exact answer to your question, Representative. I would caution against taking a total average because each home is different and the risk is different, and the underlying insurance policy for a home is written specifically for that property.
Let me ask you this: before the eruption in 2018, how much were families paying for insurance, home insurance in that area? Because from from what I was getting from my constituents, it's around maybe 500 to 1,000 on average range.
I don't know the exact figure off the top of my head, I'd have to get back to you on that.
Well, that's what they were telling me. Now they're paying around 2,000, 4,000, as high as 8,000 with HPIA. Are those numbers common numbers that you've heard, or have you not been following HPIA?
I don't know those specific numbers, I'd have to get back to you on that.
Wow, you're the insurance division and you don't know the numbers that HPIA is.
HPIA is different.
HPIA is actually not even housed under the insurance division, it's a separate entity, nonprofit, so.
Right, but you govern them and oversee them and you approve their rates, like their rates.
We do approve
So
the
if you
rates,
don't know
yes.
what they're doing on the approval or the rates, how are you even justifying what rates to improve or approve? Like, the fact that you're the agency that governed the hike increase for HPIA, you have to know how they're basing their rates, right? As a insurance agency who govern HPIA.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so you should know how much those rates have gotten up with their increase that they asked for.
Yeah, and the division does have those numbers, Representative, I just don't know them off the top of my head right now for you, I can get those to you in your office.
Okay. So you mentioned that we shouldn't do any targeted relief for families or homeowners. I think the whole state, looking at the big picture, we have a housing crisis. And if they're not able to afford insurance, do you feel like there's options for these homeowners to go to?
Representative, I don't know that that is an accurate reflection of what I was trying to communicate. If that was a miscommunication on my part, I apologize. But essentially where the department stands is that to offer subsidies for this specific subset of the community would open the door to essentially asking, well, why wouldn't we offer those subsidies across the board? I believe, the concern is that, again, lava zones 1 and 2, as rated by the USGS, are the highest volcanic risk area possible. And the underlying principle of that is that if you live there, the property value is low because the possible risk is extremely high. And so the reason why the insurance is so high is exactly because of that. It's because it's based on the underlying risk. And unfortunately for lava zones, it is not a matter of partial loss, it's a matter of total loss. So again, you're talking about paying back out the entire value of the entire property. And so while the homeowners may save on the property side, they're ending up having to pay that out on the insurance side later. So to go to your question, I mean, I think the department is appreciative of the fact that there is a shortage of housing for people, but I don't know that that necessarily falls within the scope of what we were trying to communicate in our written testimony with regards to HB 20.
My last question is that HPIA was created legislatively a while back, and it's to assist the families who are vulnerable in these geographical areas. I wanted to ask, what is the insurance division right now planning, helping, assisting these local families who live in Lava Zone 1 and 2? Are there any plans, any assistance from your division in trying to figure out some sort of solution for these communities in these areas?
Yeah, I think overall, the division is always looking at trying to find ways that will attract authorized insurers back into the market. And right now, particularly with regards to Lava Zones 1 and 2, there's not a lot of headway being made in the discussion with the authorized insurance market. And so, while we're continuing to have conversations about what would it take, quite frankly, we're not getting a lot of positive feedback, if any at all, with regards to if this, then these guys will come back. Because ultimately, it's the competition that will drive the price back down. With the lack of competition, the prices will be as high as they are. And so we're trying to work on that competition portion of it, but it's proving to be not an easy task.
Oh, this is my solution. If you have some solutions, I would love to have those exchange of ideas.
Happy to work with your office. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you distinguish between the Hurricane Relief Fund is that considered a subsidy versus what this bill is trying to do?
Yeah, so the HHRF it's the Hawaii Hurricane Relief Fund. It's meant to provide hurricane insurance policies in the event that a single-family homeowner or a condo owner, or association I should say, is unable to procure hurricane insurance. So the HHRF is specifically only hurricane insurance policies.
That's the only, you're just saying one is hurricane, one is lava, and that's the
Well, the
only thing
HPA, if you're referring to HPA or this bill.
this bill.
So this bill is simply a subsidy for homeowners in lava zones 1 and 2. Versus the HHRF is not a subsidy, it's actually an insurance company that issues policies for hurricane insurance across the state to single-family homes and condos.
Got it. So the homeowner still needs to shell out the premium.
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
And that's the difference.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
A record
A lot of bills, so gotta be fast.
Just for the previous question, HPIA is similar to the Hurricane Relief Fund in the sense of it's the last resort because there's no other insurance companies willing to authorize insurance in that area. Is that correct?
Yes, the HPIA and the HHRF are the insurers of last resort.
And if HPIA, let's say they had some sort of disaster that happens, HPIA has a guarantee that taps into all the insurance.
Is this relevant to the bill at hand? Because if you guys want to discuss a different bill concept, you're welcome to, but we have like 17 bills on the agenda, we gotta get going.
So my point is just stating that if it's possible, can we use Hurricane Relief Fund money for a subsidy for Lava Zone 1 and 2? If
To respect the chair's comment just now, that's a different issue that I'm happy to discuss with you, but as the insurance division, technically we're not commenting from the perspective of the HHRF board since that is also a separate entity, but I can tell you that the division has submitted testimony to the effect of any bills that are using HHRF money. We are opposing those bills simply from the fact that it is an insurance company that is currently writing policies and it needs all of its corpus to do so.
Okay.
But I'd be happy to discuss that with you if that's something you'd like to talk about further.
Okay, let's move on.
Moving on to HB 2612, relating to mortgages, clarifies that a mortgage does not exist independent of the debt it secures and shall not be independently enforceable from the debt. First up is Hawaii Bankers Association offering comments on Zoom. Nope, okay. Hawaii Credit Union League in person, in opposition. Thank you. Hawaii Financial Services Association in opposition.
For the day for HFSA, we stand on our testimony in opposition.
Thank you. Bianca Isaki, individual in support on Zoom.
Good afternoon, representatives. Thank you for hearing this bill. I'm in strong support. This bill puts in clear, plain language what Hawaii law has been since the Great Depression. Since 1939, in Hawaii, a mortgage is a security interest. It's not like owning land, it's a lien. Like if a contractor builds your house, they could put a lien on your house, so if you sell it, you have to pay the debt. The contractor has a security interest there, a lien. They don't get title to part of your house. So what the Supreme Court did and this decision called White is they upended this by taking a 20-year statute of limitation from an adverse possession law and said, well, that law deals with real property, mortgages deal with real property, so we'll give the banks 20 years to foreclose. But that's a big mistake because Hawaii debt collectors before this, they had 6 years to sue you to collect on a note, a debt. And that's plenty of time for a bank to sue you. Like if you are late on a mortgage payment, the banks are right on top of you. But when is 6 years not enough? It's when the note is shady, when the bank can't show how it got the note, doesn't have it, there was fraud, predatory practices, they're trading around the debt for 6 years for pennies on the dollar. So, and to put it another way, if you're owed $500,000, something's not right if it takes you 20 years to do anything about it. So the 6-year limit was there to filter out bad cases, protect from stale claims, and to resolve disputes while evidence is still fresh. Now, the banks, even though they're in strong opposition, also say White didn't change anything because it's based on cases from 100 years ago. But the legislature, you changed the law in 1939 to make Hawaii a lien state. That's why the Supreme Court reached back to pre-1939 cases. It's not the case that it's been this way for 100 years. Now, why is 20 years a bad limit? Now, which is what we now have under White. 20 years, is what title states have. And those title states, they also evolved different consumer protections that Hawaii doesn't have. So White gives this confused hybrid of a long period of foreclosure without protections. And this is a windfall for banks who can now foreclose on mortgages dating back to like 2007, including those from the subprime mortgage crisis, when they made bad loans to people who couldn't keep up payments with designs on taking their homes. Like, I know people have said, well, people borrowed money, they have to pay it back. But first, this is not always the case. And also, what do they owe? I have a client who he got $25,000, and then now he owes a $2 million house because they rack up the fees, attorney fees, late fees. I mean, and then now they're demanding $2 million. This is what equity stripping looks like, and it's happening to Hawaii residents. So I'll stop there, but thank you so much for hearing me.
Thank you. Daniel Kanahele, individual in support on Zoom.
Yes, can you see me and hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
How much time do I have to testify? About 3 minutes of testimony.
You have 2 minutes.
2 minutes?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Daniel Kanahele. I strongly support this bill. My family has been the victim of predatory lending. After nearly 15 years in court, I believe our lives were finally getting back on track. Then a new financial institution sued us again. The third, trying to enforce what is now a zombie mortgage. This bill would correct the Hawaii Supreme Court's decision in Bank of New York Mellon versus White. That decision allows a mortgage to be enforced even when the note it was meant to secure can no longer be enforced. Last year, Wells Fargo filed yet another foreclosure. This time, they stated they were not enforcing the note and were seeking only to foreclose on the mortgage. We moved to dismiss because the time limit to enforce a note had expired more than 11 years ago in 2014. Before our dismissal hearing, the Hawaiian Supreme Court issued its decision in Bank of New York Mellon versus White. Even though Hawaii has long followed the rule that the mortgage follows the note, the court ruled that a mortgage can still be enforced after the note is no longer enforceable. Now, in this third foreclosure lawsuit, the new financial institution is again refusing to provide discovery. They argue that because the note is no longer enforceable, they do not have to respond to claims that the mortgage resulted from predatory lending. They want to enforce the mortgage while avoiding any review of how the loan is created. This bill restores the basic rule that people understand and has been the law in Hawaii since 1939. If you cannot enforce the debt, you should not be able to take the home. Without this fix, lenders can wait out the time limit on the note and still foreclose years later, shielded from scrutiny about how the loan was made. Please pass this bill to prevent more families from facing zombie mortgages like mine. Please don't defer it or kill it in committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kanahele. Is there anyone else in person or online who'd like to testify on HB 2612?
Good afternoon. My name is Charles Prather. I submitted written testimony on behalf of the collection law section. We just stand on our testimony in opposition.
Okay, thank you. We have your testimony. Anyone else who'd like to testify? Members, any questions?
collection law? Can I ask you a question real quick? So if a matter is timely filed under the 6-year statute of limitations, but goes through a very long appeals process, if it's eventually dismissed without prejudice, do you have a window of time to refile even if the statute of limitations has passed?
No, I think at that point, yeah, there's an argument that can be raised, and I think it's an effective argument that the statute of limitations is closed and we're no longer able to pursue, or the foreclosing mortgagee is no longer able to pursue foreclosure as a remedy. And I think that's part of the issue is, you know, these cases do take quite a bit of time. They can't go through an appeal process.
Well, I don't want a speculative thing. I mean, this must have happened before. Have you tried an equitable tolling argument, or is there any safe harbor provision that allows you to refile within a certain amount of time, even after the statute of limitations has passed, if it was timely filed initially?
I think that you can make an equitable tolling argument. You can also argue that if there's a subsequent missed payment, that's a new default, which allows you to refile. But with the current 20-year statute of limitations, I can tell you typically the practice is if 6 years has already elapsed, then what will happen is a new foreclosure action will be filed with the clarification that no personal money judgment's being sought and that they're only seeking to foreclose.
Okay, so you don't get any money more if the note is greater than the sale, but you are still going after the purchase, at least the sale price of the foreclosed house. Is that a compromise?
That's correct. We're still pursuing the foreclosure action, and if whatever is realized at the auction or confirmation of the sale is less than what is owed to the foreclosing mortgagee, then the foreclosing mortgagee in that case will concede that it's not entitled to pursue the borrower individually for the money judgment.
Okay, do you have any precedents for the equitable I mean, it's an argument that must have been made at some point, I would think. I'm just wondering how it's turned out in court.
Personally, I haven't pursued it. I'm obviously aware of the theory, but like I said, typically lenders don't pursue deficiency judgments, and so with the 20-year statute of limitations, what happens is they strictly pursue the foreclosure remedy and they waive any sort of deficiency.
How long has it been? 20 years?
Going back as far as 1904.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Can you actually come back up?
Sure.
I know you in Ms. Izaki's written testimony, she talks about how if foreclosure can proceed after the note becomes unenforceable, delay becomes strategy rather than risk. And in the examples you've given, mortgagees pursue a foreclosure before the statute of limitations, like well before the statute of limitations, and then that is dragged out by the appeals process. But are you at all do you at all share those concerns that this would encourage delay up until like the very end of the statute of limitations? It says a creditor can wait out the limitations period on the debt, generally 6 years, especially where the note is questionable, voidable, or difficult to prove, then proceed only against the home itself.
I think the fear is that if the statute of limitation remains 20 years, that some lender is going to wait 19 and a half to pursue foreclosure. And the reality is there's no incentive for the lender to do that. And if for whatever reason the borrower feels like the lender has dragged out the process and hasn't pursued the remedies, this is a judicial foreclosure process where the borrower is welcome to show up in court, present any defenses, counterclaims, third-party claims they feel is necessary to reduce the amount of debt that's being claimed by the lender. So it's not just a case of the foreclosing mortgagee coming into the court, at the 11th hour and saying, we're owed all of this and just getting it. I mean, those amounts still have to be proved, and we still have to go through the judicial process and deal with any defenses that are raised.
Thank you.
So I think the fear was not that, not that they're going to wait 19 years to enforce the foreclosure, but that if the underlying note has any deficiencies, that just like the previous testifier said, they'd wait to file till either 7 or 8 and then try to sweep the deficiencies under the rug by not necessarily enforcing the underlying note, but by enforcing the mortgage and the underlying amount owed. So is there any water to that argument, I guess?
I don't think so, because this is kind of a separate standing issue when it comes to foreclosure cases. So as part of proving your standing as a foreclosing mortgagee, you have to show your ability to enforce the note. That you had possession, that it's endorsed in blank, or that it's specially endorsed to you. So even if you're just pursuing the foreclosure remedy and you've waived your deficiency judgment rights, you still have to show that you have the original that you're entitled to enforce. So waiting 7, 8 years, say if the statute of limitations
How
is
do you show
6,
you're entitled to enforce after the statute of limitations is run on the note?
because you still have to show that you're in possession of the original note under the
Possession, but do you have to show your ability to enforce the note as well? Because how could you do that after the statute of limitations is passed?
Because the mortgage secures the note, so you have to show that you're in
Okay,
possession
so you're
of
enforcing it through the mortgage rather than enforcing the note as a breach of contract
as a
action.
personal liability, yes.
Thank you.
Sure.
Question for Bianca. I just wanted to give you the opportunity to elaborate on whether you've seen any of these predatory practices here in Hawaii or maybe happening in other states that have an extended statute of limitations on foreclosures.
Yes, and I mean, and honestly, this is not my main area of law. I just got into it when because of the equity issues involved. And yes, there has been predatory practices. I've seen banks or lenders that played family off of each other. I referred to my client who they only borrowed $25,000, but they didn't know what they were signing, and then the debt was traded around for many years. We tried to find out what happened in those intervening years, and I'll just say it's not the case necessarily that people don't want to have equity here. If someone only paid $5,000 for a debt and now maybe some of these borrowers would pay that back. But the banks, their processes are very clandestine, and we haven't, and I think they have to be accountable for that too, because I just want to make I want to react to one thing that the last testifier said, which was that I think he referred to a case from 1910. Again, the law has evolved in Hawaii since 1939 because that's when the legislature changed. So referring back to those cases pre-1939, they're trying to join up two things that won't work except for the banks. So, and I do agree with him that yes, you do need standing to enforce the note in order to also enforce the mortgage. But what they're trying to do is extend that period where they can keep going after people for a foreclosure, past 6 years. The reason why you have that 6-year statute of limitation, like I said earlier, is kind of because there are these other considerations, people pass away, the evidence of fraud and that kind of thing falls away, and so that's what. So why give them this bill only helps the banks and all the people that were that have relied on the Hawaii as a lien theory state are kind of losing out for no reason.
Thank you, Bianca. Members, any other questions? Okay, moving on to HB 2459 relating to food and product I'm sorry, I skipped one. HB 2404 relating to cooperative associations establishes a General Cooperative Associations Act to provide a unified, flexible legal framework for cooperatives to form for any lawful purpose. First up is DCCA Business Registration Division offering comments.
Taino Hart, DCCA Business Registration Division. We stand under written testimony, offering comments. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Hawaii Alliance for Progressive Action and Support.
Yeah, pretty much.
Thank you.
So just FYI guys, these microphones are okay, but if you're too far back, if you can't hear yourself coming out of the speakers above you, then it's not gonna be heard anywhere else. So just a good rule of thumb.
Enlivened Corporation and Support on Zoom.
Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Kelly Teamy. I'm the director and co-founder of the Enliven Cooperative in Hilo, and I'm also a co-founder of the Hawaii Cooperative Hui. I am testifying in strong support of this bill, HB 2404. Cooperatives are collectively run businesses that are member-owned, member-controlled, and member-benefited. And for the last 3.5 years, I've supported more than 20 cooperatives across 5 of our islands, across all stages of the supply chain in agriculture, in aquaculture, housing, energy, and water. In 2025, I helped co-organize the first statewide cooperative gathering with more than 65 kama'aina from 15 established co-ops and 20 emerging co-ops. The demand for cooperatives is real, it's growing, and it's statewide. However, in spite of the demand, our current statutes have not kept up. Chapter 421C is designed for consumer co-ops, which means that worker-owned, agricultural producer, and multi-stakeholder must work around the statute's stated purpose to use it. Legal professionals I've engaged with have repeatedly flagged concerns about forming non-consumer co-ops under this structure, adding confusion, risk, and cost for the communities that stand to benefit the most. HB 2404 addresses this by updating Chapter 421C to allow for the specific incorporation of worker-owned, producer, multi-stakeholder, and other cooperative types, not only consumer co-ops. This gives communities a clear, unified legal pathway to organize for any lawful purpose across our food system, housing, energy, and worker ownership. There's a lot of research that shows that and I've seen that co-ops keep wealth, jobs, resources, and decision-making in local hands. HB 2404 provides the foundation our communities need. I respectfully urge you to pass this bill. Thanks for this opportunity.
Thank you so much. Hawaii Co-op Hui in support.
Aloha, my Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Keone DeFranco, Managing Director of Purple Maya Foundation and co-founder of the Hawaii Co-op Hui. As Kelly said, we've been doing a lot of work on cooperatives. There's definitely growing demand. We have over 60 active members, and our Hui as of last year, this year, about 80. And so this bill came out of workshops we've been doing and gatherings we've been doing. There has been a lot of legal insight that it's not possible to create a worker cooperative right now. And so after spending time with the DCCA, we submitted an HD1. I'm not sure that it made it onto the website in time. I'm happy to speak with the commissioner a little bit more, make sure what the way that we're approaching this makes sense. But in general, what we're doing follows an update in California. And so that involves our 421C, Consumer Cooperative Association, to an overall cooperative association, and therefore promoting the incorporation of worker cooperatives, multi-stakeholders, and others as well. But we're seeing rising demand. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Hawaii Farmers Union United in support on Zoom.
Well, Chair, Vice Chair, committee members, Hunter Haviland here on behalf of the Hawaii Farmers Union, which itself is a local chapter of the National Farmers Union, which, little factoid, is officially the Farmers Educational and Cooperative Union of America, was its title when founded well over a century ago. So cooperatives have been a key piece of organizing in the agricultural community, the benefits of which are difficult to overstate. We stand in strong support of this bill, have provided a proposed amendment based on some feedback from some agency feedback that I believe would streamline some of the rule changes and modifications while addressing some of the concerns that have popped up in the myriad outreach that some previous testifiers have referenced. I think a simple corollary is the current statute says something to the effect of you can have a consumer LLC, and we'd like to have a statute that just says you can have an LLC. Of course, replacing LLC with cooperative in that. Happy to answer any questions submitted along with our testimony is the proposed HD1. So mahalo for the opportunity to testify, and we hope we'll pass this measure.
Thank you.
Could everyone make sure their phones are silenced? That's the second one that went off. Thank you.
Anyone else in person or on Zoom who'd like to testify? Okay. We also had 24 individuals submit testimony in support. Members, any questions? I have a quick question for Hawaii Co-op Food. Can you explain the importance of having those different classifications of co-ops under this general section?
Sure, yeah, so cooperatives are member-owned businesses, so that can be consumers of a business, like a grocery store. Kukua Market is a good example of that. You can have a producer-owned cooperative, like the Ulu Cooperative, which is a cooperativizing around the production of ulu themselves. But right now, there's no clear statute and way of incorporating a worker-owned cooperative or a multi-stakeholder. So the worker cooperative model would mean that the farms that are collectivized around the production of their, or the processing of their ulu can now be owned by the workers themselves. And to folks like us, that philosophy is the original intention of cooperatives. It's the ability for democratic, one member, one state decision-making inside of a business. And so I would say the state of Hawaii has actually never fully attempted the full philosophy of cooperatives across our Pai'aina. As a Kanaka Maoli, this is a return to Ahupua'a management, Hua'aina stewardship, co-stewardship of shared resources, the ability in which we were collectively ensuring that our water flowed from Auka to Makai. And so that is the way that our culture, enforced its kanawai, the original laws of this aina. It's bringing that philosophy back into the workplace. It's something that we should be also bringing back into schools, collective decision making around how we run businesses, and also how we redistribute the surplus value. And so that's where we see a lot of exploitation in businesses right now. Is that a boss makes a tremendous amount of profit, and they basically pay themselves a large bonus. In a worker cooperative, the member owners are able to then vote and decide on how that surplus value is redistributed between members and reinvested into the business.
Thank you so much. Any other questions, members?
DCCA. So in our previous discussions, you had mentioned that the more general HRS 421C is able to be used to do a lot of the things that are being requested in this bill and I believe in the HD1 version in testimony as well. Can you speak to what the previous testifier has said they want to do with co-ops, and is that possible under the existing statute?
Sure. So with reference to the proposed HD1, we have reviewed it, and the current 421C, I believe there's nothing in there that would prohibit anyone from creating a worker co-op or a multi-state co-op, because all the specifications would be written in the bylaws. So you could still do that in the bylaws. I would only, I think, to avoid any confusion, in the title of 421C is called Consumer Cooperative Association. So deleting consumer, and I think there's two other references to consumer within that statute, would then really truly make it the general co-op statute that I think really would provide all the means to have flexibility for any of these general co-ops.
Okay, so just for the lawyers, their lawyers, they can do it already and they just need to put it into the bylaws. Is that DCCA's opinion?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Members, any other questions? Moving on to HB 2194 relating to lay, HB 2194 HD1 relating to lay requires and establishes benchmarks for each state executive agency to ensure that a certain percentage of lay. I'm sorry. Scratch that. We're on HB 2459 HD1 relating to the Food and Product Innovation Network. This requires the Food and Product Innovation Network to integrate a coordinated food safety and regulatory framework. First up is the State of Hawaii Department of Health in support.
Good afternoon, Chair Manayoshi, Chair, Vice Chair Grandinetti, and the members of the committee. My name is Michael Burke. I'm with the Hawaii State Department of Health, Food and Drug Branch. We submitted written testimony in support, stand on our testimony, and I'm available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Hawaii Community Development Authority offering comments in person. Next, Agribusiness Development Corporation in support.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. First of all, I want to say thank you for the position that you gave us last year. Here she is, the Climate Resilient Food and Product Innovation Network Manager. She's the person that's going to pull this all off. We stand in strong support. This is incredibly important in order for us to hit our food mandates. We're here for any questions.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in person or on Zoom who would like to testify? Seeing none, members, any questions?
I've seen a person who uses a crop before.
No? Okay, moving on now to HB 2194 HD1 relating to lay. Requires and establishes benchmarks for each state executive agency to ensure that a certain percentage of lay purchased by that executive agency consists of lay made entirely of natural objects and plant materials grown, harvested, and assembled in the state. First up is Hawaii Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity in support.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. I'm Esther Reichert, the Pesticides Branch Manager on behalf of the Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity. We stand on our testimony in support of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. State Procurement Office offering comments on Zoom.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Bonnie Kahakui, Administrator, State Procurement Office. Will stand on our written testimony providing comments. Mahalo.
Thank you. Hawaiian Council in support.
Okay, aloha mai, Madeline McKeag on behalf of Hawaiian Council, standing on our written testimony in strong support. Mahalo.
Thank you. Anyone else in person or on Zoom who'd like to testify? Seeing none, members, any questions? Okay, moving on to HB 1880 HD1 relating to pesticides. Beginning January 1st, 2027, prohibits the use or application of a pesticide containing 1,3-dichloropropene as an active ingredient. Hawaii Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity offering comments.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Once again, I'm Esther Reichert with Pesticides Branch Manager on behalf of the Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity. We stand on our written testimony offering comments on this. And I'm available for questions.
Thank you. Hawaii Alliance for Progressive Action in support.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. HAPA is in strong support of this bill. So since pursuant to Act 45, which was passed in 2018, RUP data has been mandated to be reported since 2019. Since then, HAPA has actually UEPA'd and analyzed the RUP available data from 2019 through 2021, while the Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity does county-wide summaries by active ingredient. We've been able to actually examine the data parcel by parcel or by TMK and actually map the data. And what we have found over 3 years of more granular analysis is that, and then also statewide data or the county-wide summaries, is that consistently fumigants are the most heavily used RUP across the state. And by large, T-Lone or 1,3-D is the most heavily used RUP in the state. However, it is only used by 1 to 2 applicants, and I believe nowadays it's only 1 applicant that uses it. It is a known carcinogen. It's highly prone to drift. The most heavy application occurs between Waialua to Waiahua. There has been some heavy use in upcountry Maui as well. The use of this particular RUP poses both acute short-term impacts, but also long-term chronic impacts. We know in addition to being applied over 100,000 pounds per year for all the years that we've have been reported to date, it's also applied on a very frequent basis, over half the days a year, a third of the days a year. And so in terms of acute exposures, we can see things like skin irritation, respiratory issues, nausea, headache, and in extreme cases, death. The long-term chronic exposures, however, are more likely to lead to things like cancers. This is currently banned in 40 other countries. Happy to answer any questions about our research. Thank you.
Thank you. Hawaii Public Health Institute in support.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and committee members. I'm Chris Caulfield from the Hawaii Public Health Institute, and we're in support of this bill as well. When we know that a chemical causes harm, we can't wait to take action. And the science on this is clear, as you just heard. The active ingredient in T-Lone is classified by the EPA, the National Toxicology Program, and the International Agency for Research on Cancer as a probable or possible human carcinogen. It's a volatile fumigant, meaning that when it becomes a gas, it doesn't stay where it's applied. It moves through the air, exposing farm workers, families, and especially our keiki, to a chemical that's been linked to respiratory illness, organ damage, and long-term cancer risk. And in Hawaii, where schools, homes, our agricultural fields exist side by side, that exposure is not abstract. It is real, it is preventable. In public health, it teaches us that prevention is essential because it is always the most vulnerable communities, the most rural communities in our keiki who bear the greatest burden of environmental exposure. So from our perspective, this bill really isn't even just about science, it's about stewardship. It's about stewardship of our land, our water, our food supply, and of the truly regenerative practices that nurture our next generation's fundamental right to health. When a substance is known to cause cancer and respiratory harm, and safer alternatives exist, the only ethical choice is to put people before profit and take action to protect the lands that sustain us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Dole Food Company, Hawaii in opposition.
Yes. I'm Daniel Nellis from Dole Food Company, and we're strongly in opposition, and I did submit a written testimony. We follow all the EPA regulations, from sourcing it to applying it to follow up afterwards, annual training for all the people who work with it, Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity certified pesticide applicator licenses for our managers and supervisors. This is not a product that can be replaced. Without T-Lone, we have no other usable nematicide that will allow us to do commercial pineapple. We have 200 people that work out there, and that's 200 families. And at the very least, we need to have much more time to find an alternative. The only attempt to do organic large-scale pineapple farming was Maui Land and Pineapple about 10, 12 years ago. And because of nematodes, they gave up. Nematodes attack the root system, which results in a plant that is failing. Small fruit, uneven looking fruit, unmarketable fruit. And our market is Hawaii. If we go out, then anybody who wants pineapple in Hawaii will be getting it from a foreign country where they use much less regulated. They don't have the USDA down in the foreign countries. So we're following all the regulations, and we ask that this bill does not pass, and at the very least, that if it does, it should have an amendment that suggests a viable alternative is on the market. This is the only one registered for us for pineapple for nematode fumigant. And we put it in 20 inches deep, we cover it, we don't touch it for 7 days, all per the label. And the EPA scientists are the scientists who have done all the work on determining what's safe for the US and what's not. We're nowhere near schools, we're nowhere near houses. And I just want to remind you that we'll be nowhere near producing pineapple in Hawaii if we are forced to just give up on T-Lone on January 27th. We apply it once in 3 years.
It's been 2 minutes.
Thank you. Just so you know, only once every 3 years is it applied. Yes, it's a continuous, because every week we're planting, but we don't continuously apply it in the life of the crop.
Thank you. Clayton Kubo, individual in support on Zoom.
Clayton Kubo, Waimea, Kauai. I need to remind you guys, back in the year of 2023, increased fines for repeat offenders of pesticide violations became an act I'm still waiting on the Department of Agriculture to implement that. But in a way, like the Dole guy just said, we follow all guidelines, we follow the label is the law, and this and that. Well, I tell you what, you guys better go check that, the increased fines. That one there was 80-something pages. If I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, was 80-something pages. Okay? Anybody can say whatever they want, but the proof is in that document. I've been waiting for how long? Please.
Sir, can we
Ban these
testify
kids.
on the
Aloha.
merits of the bill, please? Thank you.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I try to make sense to you guys so you guys understand.
Thank you, Mr. Kubo. Is there anyone else in person or on Zoom who would like to testify on this measure? Please introduce yourself.
Aloha, Keeling DeFranco, Purple Maya Foundation. I stand in strong support of this measure. I don't believe we should be supporting agricultural practices for imported crops that sacrifice the health of our water, our land, and our ohana.
Thank you. Anyone else who'd like to testify on this measure? Seeing none, members, any questions?
For Hapa. It seems like you collected a lot of data about this particular use of carcinogen. But when it enters our, it doesn't just stay, I guess, in the dirt where they put it 20 inches down. It does, when it rains, does it move into the streams and then ultimately into the nearshore waters?
Yeah, so most of the studies that we've been looking at come from California, where they do much more extensive drift monitoring through their Department of Pesticide Regulation. And there have been many incidents where with multiple fumigants, but this one in particular, they have found it's drifted because most fumigants are highly volatile and prone to drift. Even when tarped, they've found off-target drift up to 7 miles at harmful rates, yeah.
So that would lead to nearshore waters.
It's also a known water contaminant as well.
Okay, because I know like Mr. Kubo was earlier on another committee, but basically it was about protecting our aquatic, our fish life, the endangered species, and so it feels like it has greater reach than just a school near a field.
I think the problem with a lot of the regulatory framework is it often it often looks specifically more at acute harm rather than long-term chronic exposures, and so often that's not incorporated, and so that's why we see chemicals that are registered and allowed in the market often get banned after decades-long studies that show long-term chronic exposures actually do cause harm because that's not accounted for in the initial testing.
I have a quick question for you.
Yeah.
What's going on with 2022? Is that a reporting issue? There's 0 pounds applied in the state.
I'm not sure. There are a lot of issues with the reporting that we found. For example, we found many instances where we couldn't actually GIS map the data because it wasn't attributed to a TMK. There was pretty extensive work done to actually a lot of the, just issues with the reporting being, maybe missing a digit in the TMK. So there was a lot of just kind of human error as well. So I'm not sure if that was an error in reporting. It's hard to know from our analysis.
Dole, could you guys come up? Could you come up for a sec? You said that you applied this 20 inches down.
Yes.
Is there any chance for it to get into the air, for drift through the air when you apply that like that?
If you don't seal the soil properly, but we do seal the soil properly with equipment called the cultipacker.
And is there a half-life or some kind of time where the alone would break down or something? I mean, what's
I'm not.
You know how long it lasts?
Yeah, I'm not certain about that. I do know that it does not last into the next crop. The nematode population comes back. Our crop is 18 months and followed by a second crop 14 months. Then we knock down and we fallow for approximately a year. And then we disturb and plow again. And at that point, we have to treat for nematodes again. Okay.
And one for Department of Ag and Biosecurity. What kind of alternatives are there out there for Tilone? I did pronounce it wrong.
Hello, so I haven't looked into the alternatives. As mentioned before, there are only 1 to 2 users right now as far as what they're using it for and what crop and how they're using it. It would be up to them to determine what product they want to use for their crop. We can provide a list that will, depending on the situation of what they want to use the product for.
Okay, well, let me ask other people too, that, is there an alternative that's safer? I mean, I don't want an alternative that's worse. Is there an alternative that's safer that's on the market right now? What do the other 40 countries use?
That's a really good question. I'm not sure, but I know that there was another conventional pineapple grower that has transitioned away from using it, so they might be, I'm not sure what they've transitioned to using, but I know one thing about fumigants in general is they tend to sterilize the soil, so one of the challenges can be just they kill a lot of the beneficial organisms in the soil as well. So I'm not sure, you know, I know in like more regenerative systems, it's like more about building soil health, so people will use like rotations of other crops will help discourage nematodes, but I'm not sure if that would be viable in a conventional.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, may I just a sec?
Sure, yeah.
All of the agrochemicals that are used have to be specifically approved for a crop. Tilone is the only fumigant approved for pineapple that's available today. And again, we're always looking to see if manufacturers will come up with something else less toxic, cheaper. There's nothing on the market for us at all.
Is there anything in the pipe?
Excuse me?
Is there anything in the pipe?
Not at the moment, but we keep talking to the manufacturers. Unfortunately, pineapple in Hawaii is a small industry compared to the worldwide agrochemical use industry. So they're not motivated, although we keep prompting them. And many countries do not need to fumigate for nematicide. It is a geographical thing.
Thank you.
Makes
sense.
Thank you. Just wanted to note 45 other individuals submitted written testimony in support. Now moving on to HB 2284 HD1 relating to energy assistance, establishes the Hawaii Home Energy Assistance Program within the Department of Human Services to assist qualifying households in paying their energy bills. Department of Human Services in support.
Lisa Furtado, Fisher, Financial Assistance Program Administrator. The department stands on our submitted testimony and here for any questions.
Thank you. DCCA Division of Consumer Advocacy and Support.
Afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Michael Angelo for the Division of Consumer Advocacy. Stand on our testimony in strong support. Available for questions.
Thank you. Public Utilities Commission and support.
Afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Ashley Norman on behalf of the Public Utilities Commission. We stand on our written testimony in support. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Catholic Charities Hawaii and support on Zoom.
Aloha, Chair and Vice Chair. I'm Betty Lou Larson from Catholic Charities. We strongly support this bill. We really have a concern for our Kapuna, our Alice families that we work with. They're particularly struggling, and electricity is one of the basic needs that they're struggling with to survive. We see that by 2023, there had been a huge increase in disconnections. And that's just not what should be happening, people losing their electricity. In addition, our very low income people are paying an extremely high percentage. So those below poverty line are paying maybe 20% of their income on electricity. So we really support this bill and hope that you will move it forward. Thank you for listening to it.
Thank you. Anyone else in person or on Zoom would like to testify? Seeing none, questions?
Is PUC here?
Yes.
Is there already a program in place either through ECO or some other means to assist people who can or have trouble paying their electricity bill?
Well, if you're referring to other disconnections related programs, that's
Any kind of subsidy, I'm just kind of curious what's out there.
sure. I mean, well, as far as bill relief, I know that there's like a special needs program that HECO oversees for, as an example, for like medical support of medical needs. There is energy assistance support available through Hawaii Energy, which is a energy efficiency program that's overseen by the commission that is in service of HECO's customers. There's the LIHEAP program, which of course is at a federal level, and then this program of course is meant to support at a state level.
they effective?
It's my understanding that, yes, they are effective, but we're looking for new and innovative ways to also support customers. Like, for instance, the commission right now is exploring a long list of initiatives within this disconnections policy realm through our disconnections docket. So it's examining ways that this type of bill relief could be improved to support the energy.
My question was actually bad, it's my fault. How, it's not that they're not effective, because I mean, money getting to people who need it, it's gonna help them. But how easy is it to identify who needs help and how much administrative burden is associated with those programs, if you know?
How are they determined in terms of need? Is that your question?
Need, or just finding people that, I mean, sometimes we'll, stand up a state program and you have to get the word out, and it's difficult to get people to even apply. Are these programs effective in that way?
I mean, I guess I can only speak to the Hawaii Energy Program specifically, because that's something that the commission oversees directly and is much more involved in, and I would certainly defer to HECO to address any of their specific programs. But yeah, I mean, there's extensive outreach that's involved with the Hawaii Energy Program, both at the community level, customer level. They definitely year over year are providing customers direct benefits, both with their trade-up programs and energy assistance at a community level when they actually get in and can offer an entire neighborhood an upgrade program. So I mean, I think they have been very effective both from a marketing standpoint as well as community direct engagement.
Thank you.
Any other questions, members? Okay, moving on to HB 1969 HD1 relating to colorectal cancer, requires and appropriates funds for the Department of Human Services to develop and implement a public assistance program offering state-funded colorectal screenings for certain persons. Department of Health offering comments.
Good afternoon, Chair and Vice Chair, members of the committee. I'm Lola Urban, representing the Department of Health. So the Department of Health offers comments. We do have public health data that shows that for age 45 to 54, and we have new data, by the way, 2024 data that we've just recently published, 53% of those who qualify at age 45 to 54 received colorectal cancer screening. Overall, in 2024, 70% of people who were eligible received screening. And so from a public health perspective, we know that effective detection is important. And so in March, we will be releasing a new colorectal cancer screening campaign, the first time we've ever done that as a messaging campaign. And we're letting primary care physicians know, knowing that they're the first to talk to their patients about colorectal cancer screening. And so we will be doing that and hopefully encouraging those who are 45 years and older to get screened, because colorectal cancer is now the leading cause of death for those under age 50. And so it is important, and so we appreciate the opportunity to provide testimony.
Thank you. Department of Human Services offering comments.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. I'm Meredith Nichols. On behalf of the Department of Human Services, we stand on our testimony and adhere to the Constitution.
Thank you. American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network in support.
Thank you. Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and committee members. Cynthia Al, on behalf of American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network, or ACS-CAN, we're testifying in strong support with amendments to this measure. Mahalo for considering this very important bill. Colorectal cancer is one of the most preventable and treatable cancers when caught early, yet it remains the second leading cause of cancer death in Hawaii for men and women combined. These deaths are preventable with timely screening. Cost remains one of the most significant barriers. Everyone in Hawaii should have equitable access to preventive care. Uninsured adults are far more likely to be diagnosed at late stages when treatment is more complex, less effective, and expensive, often exceeding $100,000. As Hawaii anticipates an increase in uninsured adults, establishing a public assistance program to ensure access to these screenings become even more critical to prevent cancer, catch it early, and reduce avoidable healthcare costs. Department of Health just talked about the where 50 and under is now, colorectal cancer is now like the leading cause of cancer deaths. Last week, actor James Van Beek passed away at the age of 48 from colorectal cancer, a tragic and public reminder that this disease is striking younger adults at alarming rates. His story emphasizes why Hawaii must expand access to early screening and ensure no one gets delayed due to cost or lack of insurance. We also strongly support codifying federal guidance requiring no-cost follow-up colonoscopies after a positive stool-based test. This ensures that patients can complete screening process without financial barriers. Our recommended amendments align Hawaii laws with existing federal ACA protections. We respectfully urge the legislature to support these amendments and also fund the public assistance program. Thank you.
Thank you. Bob Toyofuku, individual and support in person.
Mr. Chairman and Madam Vice Chair, I'm Bob Toyofuku, testifying in support of this measure. And the reason I'm here is personal in the sense that my father-in-law had colon cancer and they caught it early and he survived. I mean, he passed away at age 97 a few years back. But currently, my wife was diagnosed with colon cancer in August. And so she's just finishing up her therapy. I wanted to emphasize the importance, and others have said this as well, the importance of detecting it early so that it doesn't spread. And lastly, I know that it's very difficult for the legislature and legislators to pass something for an appropriation that is more preventative in nature, but this will eventually save lives and save costs as well. But thank you very much for allowing me to testify.
Thank you so much. Anyone else in person or on Zoom who would like to testify? Okay, 12 other individuals submitted testimony in support. Members, any questions?
American Cancer Society, where would you go? You said that you mentioned the ACA. In your testimony, you seem to imply that the two amendments that you were proposing for a follow-up colonoscopy to be included with insurance with no copay was already required under federal laws. Am I misreading that?
So in January of 2022, the federal tri-agencies, the Department of Labor, Department of Health and Human Services, and the Department of Treasury issued clarifying guidance confirming that private insurance plans must cover follow-up colonoscopies after a positive stool-based test without cost sharing after a positive stool-based test. This ensures that once the patient receives an abnormal, non-invasive screening result, they are not burdened with out-of-pocket costs.
Which is great. Don't get me wrong. But if it's already a thing, why do we need to put it in our statutes?
Just to codify into state law, just to make sure that they're not they're following the federal guidelines.
Can we bust them in federal though? They already have to do this, right? I'm just a little confused why we're putting it here too.
I'm not sure if anyone from the insurance company is here, but right now we do have.
Okay, Jack.
Yeah, right now, to my knowledge, there is copay, or whatever when a patient goes in, they have to pay like copay for it. So we're just making sure that
So copay in violation of federal law?
If you put it in state statute, it wouldn't be. Yeah.
Jack, do you have a thought?
I just want to comment that I think the bigger concern for us is that there'll be a lot of people who are on the Affordable Care Act that will leave their insurance. They'll be no longer insured in this age group because of the tax credits issue that Congress has failed to address. So I think we may have a population of people that will not have insurance access, period. We'll have to be thinking about that.
That's fair, but I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but the proposals that you're making are for insurance to cover it. So if you're uninsured, this wouldn't apply anyway, right? the amendments that you're proposing?
So, there's like two separate asks for the bill, right? One is for the public assistance program, and the second one is just to codify what's currently federally required.
But if you don't have insurance, then it's not like, if you test positive, but you don't have insurance, there's nothing to cover the follow-up, even though we put it into statute. Is that
Sorry,
right?
can you say that again?
So if I tested positive for colon cancer, and then I needed a follow-up colonoscopy, even if we made the changes that you are proposing, and even though it's present in federal statute as well, if I don't have insurance, would that colonoscopy be covered by some other means?
No,
Okay.
it wouldn't. So for the public assistance program, we're trying to catch it early. That's why it's preventable, right? Because if you can catch it, they can take the positive, take the test, and then it shows up as positive, then they know that there's something wrong, and then they can get assistance for it.
Thank you. Actually, I don't know if this is going to be for DHS or DOH, but I kind of wish insurance. Is the insurance commission still here? Yeah. Do you guys want to weigh in? How will this? Oh, I guess it's already federal law, so it's not. I just want to verify that if we were to make these changes to make it so that the colonoscopy after a positive test is covered with no copay, there's not going to be any risk to insurers leaving the market or raising premiums or anything.
So good afternoon, great question. Justin Chu for the Insurance Division. With respect to the issue just raised, I believe, I'm not entirely certain, but I believe that what the Cancer Society is referring to is the federal FAQs, which is a tri-agency recommendation. So those are sub-regulatory guidance, they're not actually law. So it's a recommendation of it's an explanation of how the federal agencies will enforce the law, but it's not actually a federal regulation. And then, so there's concern also that, so in the previous version of the bill, we were concerned that the statute referenced mandated coverage to the FAQs. And our concern was that those FAQs can change without federal rulemaking. They can go up, they can go down, based on the administration that's in charge. They can issue a new FAQ and create confusion in terms of what the coverage would be, specifically as it relates to the preventive service is covered. So the question is, if there's a colon cancer screening and then they find a polyp, with the removal of that polyp can also counted as the preventive care. And one of the FAQs says that it should be, but again, it's not a federal regulation. It's a FAQ.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Moving on to the next measure, HB 2458, HD1 relating to surveillance pricing, prohibits retailers from using surveillance pricing in the sale of food that is sold or qualifies to be sold as part of the federal SNAP or special supplemental nutrition program for women, infants, and children. State Department of Human Services offering comments.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, and Committee. Jeanette Hayes on behalf of the Department of Human Services. We stand on our testimony and are available for questions.
Thank you. DCCA Office of Consumer Protection offering comments.
Good afternoon, Raji Tolentine on behalf of Office of Consumer Protection. We will stand on our written testimony offering comments.
Thank you. Hawaii Public Health Institute in support.
Hello again, Chair, Vice Chair, and committee members. I'm Chris Coughlin from Hawaii Public Health Institute. We're in support of this bill. We're all familiar with those situations where Uber costs $10 and then you wait 10 minutes and it costs $25. So imagine that, but with SNAP and WIC. That's essentially what surveillance pricing is. Surveillance pricing allows companies to set prices based on personal information, purchasing history, browsing behavior, demographic data, what's left in your cart online. And it allows them to charge different consumers different prices for the same products. There was a study that came out from Consumer Report that showed that there was a variation of as much as 23% for different consumers on the same goods. There's also been studies that show, specifically with regard to SNAP and with regard to programs like SNAP, that consumer advocates have found that this is happening when SNAP users most need it. So for example, at the beginning of the month when SNAP cards are refilled, or at the end of the month when hunger needs are most acute, it can escalate when there's the urgency of meeting those basic needs. Also, we want to note that this not only does it, implicate, have implications for financial stability and predictability for families, but this also corrupts our social safety net and our ability to allocate resources efficiently. which is distorted by these artificial algorithmic price fluctuations. We're trying to make sure the dollars are received by families in a way that's predictable, both for the local families, working families, and for the state itself as we do our accounting. So we see this as a predatory practice, and we hope that you will move this bill forward to rein it in. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hawaii Children's Action Network speaks in support.
Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, Representative Iwamoto. We support this bill because first of all, SNAP and WIC are crucial to our state's families. More than half of SNAP recipients in Hawaii are in families with children, and nearly half of Hawaii's pregnant and postpartum women and children under the age of 5 are eligible for WIC food assistance. Like Chris said, there have been studies coming out showing that this surveillance pricing is predatory, that depending on where you live, the time of day, the prices go up and down. This is a special problem for neighbor island families. We have the highest cost of living already, and a lot of neighbor island families, or those in rural areas here in Oahu, don't have a whole lot of alternatives. They would be especially vulnerable to this kind of predatory pricing that would worsen the affordability crisis for our families here. So we ask you to pass this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in person or on Zoom who would like to testify?
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Danielle Espoto with Hawaii Appleseed. Thank you for taking my testimony in person. I wanted to add to what other folks have already said. We are in support of this bill. Hawaii is already experiencing the highest grocery costs in the entire nation of any other state. And this affordability crisis that we're all collectively experiencing, whether we're on SNAP or not, has led to 1 in 3 families struggling to afford to put enough food on the table. Other folks have already mentioned that this is a predatory corporate practice. It's already rampant across other industries. It has no place in our food industry. And gouging prices based on things like the time of day, time of month, demand, or personal data is an egregious overreach of corporate power that must be stopped before it becomes the norm. Once it becomes the norm, it's going to be too late. So we really appreciate the opportunity to testify and hope that this bill passes. Thank you.
Anyone else who'd like to testify?
Chair, Vice Chair, Member Iwamoto, Hop would like to stand under testimony and support.
Thank you. Any other testifiers? Members, any questions?
I have a question for DHS. So in your testimony, you seem to say that doing this for just SNAP might be a violation of federal law by treating SNAP pricing differently than other pricing?
So for SNAP retailers, they are under the jurisdiction for Food and Nutrition Service as far as their retail practice. They have to agree to all the conditions for them to be able to accept SNAP as a form of payment, and they're subject to equal treatment rules. So any of the pricing that they offer for any of the purchases has to be equal to what a usual cash purchase would be. So if the egg price is going to be, let's say $5.99 for a dozen eggs, it has to be the same cost for a SNAP recipient versus a person paying cash for that same purchase. So that's all subject to that retailer as a condition of their agreement with FNS.
So if a grocery store accepts SNAP and eggs are part of SNAP, then they couldn't use surveillance pricing to alter the price of eggs for someone not on SNAP because they'd have to keep it consistent with everyone on SNAP already.
Correct.
So
So if I go to the cash register and I'm purchasing with SNAP and you're behind me and you're buying the same product and you're paying cash, the cost amount should be the same in terms of what they have to offer.
surveillance prices is effectively not allowed for SNAP products already, is what you're saying, if the
Yes.
grocery store
Yes,
abides by the SNAP. has to
that would
abide
be
by
my
the SNAP
understanding, yes. The retailer cannot adjust their pricing based on my SNAP purchase versus someone else's cash purchase.
Gotcha, thank you. And DCCA too. Why no loyalty program, or why do you wanna get rid of the loyalty program?
We raised a concern about loyalty programs and surveillance pricing because these programs collect a lot of information about customers, and this information is used to individualize pricing. So
it's privacy concerns, it's not cost concerns here.
What?
It's privacy concerns, not cost concerns, is what you're saying.
Well, no, because they have this information, they can individualize the pricing for, like when you have your My card or whatever, they know how you shop. So they know you shop this way, they'll might increase the pricing for you. So, but, you know, with that being said, we did appreciate the part in the statute that says that loyalty programs terms must be applied consistently and not be individualized for consumers. We're okay with that, so.
So you're okay with the loyalty language in
Well,
there right now?
We just want to be sure that they don't practice this way of pricing.
Yeah, I think if they did, it would be
With Delta
literally-
Airlines, yeah.
literally violating the purpose of the bill, right? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Moving on to HB 1546 HD1 relating to health insurance. This bill establishes a 3-year health coverage continuity pilot program within the Department of Human Services in consultation with DCCA to assist individuals who have lost Medicaid health insurance coverage and lack access to other health insurance options. DCCA Insurance Division offering comments.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. You have written comments, but just to summarize, we're ready to support the DHS to implement the pilot program. Regarding the first group, we note that this group, our understanding is that they're for individuals who have incomed out, who have gotten higher than Medicaid, but yet are available for advanced premium tax credits. We just note that the ability to enroll in marketplace silver plans is controlled by CMS. So we're just setting expectations that even if they do no longer qualify for Medicaid and are eligible for the silver plans, that determination would be made by CMS. Second, the second group is, from what we understand, is those who lost Medicaid due to the community engagement requirements or verification requirements. We just note that the deductibles for bronze and catastrophic plans are very high. They average about $6,700 in deductible for the bronze plans and $10,600. So they're quite high before health insurance starts picking up the bill. And then finally, we had just asked for clarity for the term preventive care, which the $1,000 subsidy is to be used on. Currently, bronze and catastrophic plans still are EHB plans under the Affordable Care Act, meaning they must cover preventive care services at no cost. So we're just asking for clarity about what that $1,000 will be used for.
Thank you. State Health Planning and Development Agency in support with comments.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and Member Jack Lewin, SHPTA. We support this program. We think it's great to start preparing now for an increase in the numbers of uninsured persons in relationship to the big not so beautiful bill HR 1, and it makes sense. We would just comment that back in 1990, the state health insurance plan was enacted, and it was provided very, very low cost insurance to citizens here. Our Health Data Advisory Council estimates we have about 50,000 uninsured persons now in the state. We expect possibly 40,000 more uninsured persons due to the big not so beautiful bill. So I just like to keep in mind that given this could be cost hundreds of millions of dollars, it's a great program. We'd like to see it. We'd like to have it be fully covered. Insurance, even with Medicaid, is if you're really on the low side, $3,000 to $5,000 a year per person, and for more in the Obamacare exchanges. So we got to think about how much money that would be if we want to provide coverage for people who need it. We may want to be rethinking some of the ideas of just providing prevention services and primary care services, full prevention. They would have their colonoscopy or their mammogram, but that's only when you average it out over a big population, $300 a year. And primary care is maybe less than $500 a year. So we could provide, lower cost insurance and most of the care we need, and work with the hospitals on essential care like labor and delivery. So just want to think about how the state responds to this if money is an issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Department of Human Services offering comments.
Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Meredith Nichols on behalf of the Department of Human Services. We're gonna stand on our written testimony, but I also wanted to just appreciate the really good intent of this bill. We share the legislators' concern about the impact that both HR 1 requirements that will change the way Medicaid does its eligibility, causing many more people to have to do their renewals once every 6 months instead of annually. That would be for our adult non-disabled population. So that's a doubling of the amount of time people will have to renew their eligibility, which could cause people to fall off of coverage, combined with the community engagement and work requirements. We estimate that between 19,000 and 38,000 adults could lose coverage as a result of those requirements. We also know, so there are multiple issues converging, right? We also know that on the federally facilitated marketplace side, that the enhanced premium tax credits did not get extended at the end of the year, which made coverage on the marketplace far more expensive for most people who get their insurance there. Hawaii has about 24,000 people who get their insurance there. We don't know yet how many people have not been able to continue. Kaiser and HMSA are two insurers on the marketplace. They receive that information directly, so they'll be able to let us know sooner rather than later what that's looking like. But we understand the problem. The problem is people will be without insurance, and so I think this bill is attempting to find safe harbor for people, find coverage for people. I just wanted to acknowledge that, and I'm here if you have any questions. Mahalo.
Thank you. Catholic Charities Hawaii and support on Zoom.
Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. I'm Betty Lou Larson for Catholic Charities Hawaii. We just want to express our thanks to the legislature for being proactive to looking at this issue. It's going to be a huge impact on so many thousands of people, as just been expressed. So, we're not a healthcare expert or a health insurance expert, but we know that we have to do something. So we appreciate looking at this for the people who will fall off, not only for their personal health care and the health care of their family, whether they're workers or, people who are homeless or kapuna, but also what the impact will be on our healthcare system. If you have people without healthcare, again, having extreme chronic illnesses, having serious illnesses that have to receive care, but that will not be reimbursed for. So that can have a huge impact on not only on our rural healthcare is already struggling, but on all healthcare in Hawaii. So we appreciate that you're looking for that vital safety net for these Medicare and Medicaid people, and we support your intent totally. Thank you very much for hearing the bill and working on this issue.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in person or on Zoom who'd like to testify on this measure? We had 31 individuals submit testimony in support and 1 in opposition. Members, any questions? For Shifta. For my own education, when in your testimony you talk about other approaches that might be considered, would you mind elaborating briefly?
Happy to. Obviously, we prefer to have full coverage for people if we can afford to do that, who have lost coverage. The cost for that could be prohibitive for the state, thinking about that. Back in 1990, through the subsequent 10 years, we had something called the State Health Insurance Plan. We actually worked on an arrangement with hospitals, even though we cut the inpatient coverage back to 3 days per beneficiary per year, which allowed for labor and delivery and appendicitis and most orthopedic injuries. But we also paid for the emergency department visits that were legitimate and several of the other upfront costs. So hospitals were not losing money on this whole thing. And then we provided all the primary care and all the prevention to the population. The interesting thing was that for the people who are now the exchange folks for the Affordable Care Act, they paid their own premiums in this program back in those days, indicating that they will pay, those folks will pay something. So I just wanted to bring this kind of an creative idea up to you all. If we come to a place where we don't think we can afford to go full coverage, there may be some options that could be fairly successful.
Okay,
Thank you.
Rep. Martin.
Okay, for the Department of Human Services? Thank you for being here with us. So I see in your testimony that you feel that the current draft of this bill kind of has two tracks. One for people who qualify for that federal subsidy, and you have a current program that does that for immigrants that don't qualify otherwise, and you say you could expand that. But the other track, which is the one that we've been discussing, that has basically a straight up subsidy to do preventive care for people with a high deductible plan, you feel that that program, setting that up, would be too time consuming for you at this time? And if so, like, what do you recommend instead for those people?
It's a very good question, and again, we appreciate the need. This was just our communicating transparently that we don't have a program that's similar to that right now. We don't have the experience in the Department of Human Services. I know there's a lot of language in the bill that I would turn to our friends from the DCCA to help in terms of proper insurance language and backing. To stand up a pool of $1,000 per person to be used for preventative care. There would be, I think, a lot of definitions that would have to be worked out. And so it's not that it's just a lot of work, because we're here to do the work on behalf of the people. It's more the complexity and timing. How would this work? How do we set it up? What resources do we have? I think we also are very concerned with the fact that we know we're already facing HR1 complications and having to do a full system overhaul for MedQuest to change our eligibility criteria to include volunteer time, to include tracking people's work hours to make sure they're at 80 for the month. So we know that with the pool of people we have, we're really tapped out. And so it's not that this is not a worthy idea, it's just being realistic about how would we go about implementing this, what more would we need in order to do something like this.
Okay, do you think that a collaboration with other agencies within DHS would be helpful? I'm thinking like BESD is in the business of paying for people's bills through some of their programs, right? Of, providing direct payments to providers for, housing, utilities, things like that. And this could be instead to healthcare providers. I wonder if there is that expertise there. I'm just, I understand your constraints. As you know, I'm very sensitive and want to help with those. But at the same time, I don't see how else to help this group if we don't go ahead and try to set up a program. And I just wonder what you think about BESD being a partner in that and having those that practice already of providing financial payments on behalf of people.
I appreciate that idea. I think it's worthwhile for us to take a look at what might be possible in that way. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
Can we just put $1,000 for them in a health savings account, or even just pay? What's the difference in cost between a bronze and silver plan?
It fully depends on your age, on your income. So the plans don't have really exact pricing. It's a matrix. The older you are, the more expensive your plan is. The wealthier you are, the fewer amount of subsidies you have.
So from what I've been reading, I mean, silver plans tend to include more preventive care. I mean, could the $1,000 be just used as an option to bridge the gap between bronze and silver instead? And not have to deal with a lot of the paperwork and administrative burden?
I think that the costs are quite a bit larger, the difference in costs.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying it would totally close the gap, but if it's that or nothing, if you guys can't handle the plan anyway and implement it, then maybe the money would be better spent trying to get people into the silver plan by partial subsidy. I mean, are you telling us that you can't do that?
No, I'm not at
If you
all.
did it, or-
You know, not at all. What I would say is what adds to the complexity of this is our lack of control over the federally facilitated marketplace. So they have an open enrollment period that goes from November and it ends in January. And then it stays closed for the rest of the year. The only way you have entry to the marketplace is if you qualify for a special enrollment period. So for people who may have already purchased bronze plans, they don't necessarily have that access to buy up to a silver level. This was all happening at the same time as that all those critical debates were happening in Washington DC to push the need to extend the enhanced credits. That was the real ticking time clock. Because the marketplace, it's not like MedQuest. MedQuest, we are open year round. You can apply any day of the week, 365 days a year. That is not true of the federally facilitated marketplace. There's a distinct open enrollment period for the plan year, and then it's locked out. So what we're trying to grapple through with reading through this and trying to think of ways that we can work on it is how, while we can control what we're doing, we can't reopen the marketplace to have those options available to people again for this plan year, 2026. And then the next open enrollment period for 2027 coverage should happen again in November. It will reopen in November. I want to note though that for folks who are you lose Medicaid coverage, maybe you got a raise and you're now no longer eligible for Medicaid. You're financially you earn a little too much money now. You could have access to getting into the marketplace because loss of Medicaid coverage is a reason to trigger a special enrollment period. So not all is lost. That could happen for those people who qualify out of Medicaid. When we talk about the scenarios we're talking about in this bill though, when we talk about people who lose Medicaid coverage because they couldn't meet the work and community engagement requirements, if you lose Medicaid for those reasons, you are ineligible for any premium assistance on the marketplace. So you don't qualify.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions, members? Moving on to HB 2161 HD1 relating to pharmacy establishes the Daniel K. Inouye College of Pharmacy Special Fund to support pharmacist workforce assessment and planning efforts. State Health Planning and Development Agency in support.
Yes, we stand on our testimony, Chair, Vice Chair, members. We think that we do this well for doctors and for at the UH and for nurses at this point. We should do this for pharmacists as well because we're developing workforce shortages. Thank you.
Thank you. University of Hawaii at Hilo in support.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. I'm Ray Matsumoto, Dean of the Daniel K. Inouye College of Pharmacy. We stand in support of this bill to create a special fund. It is important for a number of reasons. It will, at the bottom line, it will help to ensure that we have an adequate workforce in pharmacy, so trying to prevent shortages, or at least insurmountable shortages such as exist for physicians and for nurses, and then also to help improve access to quality healthcare. Notably, we are not asking for any legislative appropriations for this bill. This special fund will be seeded by professional licensing fees from the profession of pharmacy, but it is something that will help us as a profession create solutions for the state of Hawaii to ensure access to healthcare. So happy to answer questions. We also support the amendments that were proposed by the Hawaii Pharmacists Association.
Thank you. DCCA Board of Pharmacy and Support.
Good morning, afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair. This is Christopher Fernandez, Executive Officer for the Board of Pharmacy. I'm here to stand on the board's testimony, supporting the intent and offering comments. Thank you.
Hawaii Pharmacists Association in support.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. I stand on my written testimony in support. I just want to add 2 additional comments. The fee structure that I proposed in my testimony, it's such modest increases, and we're already among the least expensive states to practice pharmacy in. So I don't see this being a deterrent to doing pharmacy or doing pharmacy business in the state. The last thing I want to say to tie it all together is when you compare pharmacy practice in our state to our neighbor states, specifically on the West Coast like California and Washington State, they are leveraging pharmacy in a way that we are not here. So they're able to bill for clinical services. They have pharmacists embedded in team-based care models. And we think that the center is really the missing piece to continue to advance the profession as we continue to advance ourselves in statute, but really to drive sustainable models that we can scale across the state. Thank you.
Thank you. Molokai Drugs, Inc. in support on Zoom.
Good afternoon. This is Kimberly Svetin. I'm the president of Molokai Drugs, and we stand on our testimony. One thing I wanted to add is there are a lot of us in pharmacy who are preceptors for the Daniel K. Inouye UH College of Pharmacy in Hilo, and one of our interns just started yesterday. This is training that we do for future pharmacists at no cost to the state. We actually volunteer our time. So I just wanted to add that to my testimony, and I stand on my testimony. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in person or on Zoom who'd like to testify? We also had 17 individuals submit testimony in support. Members, any questions?
Maybe for the School of Pharmacy. Sorry, whoever could speak to the shortage of pharmacists. Do we have a shortage of pharmacists?
Excellent question. Do we have a shortage of pharmacy? In the state of Hawaii, we don't have good workforce data. That's one of the challenges. Nationally, there's a lot of data out there where nationally the country is preparing for a shortage of pharmacy. So as a pharmacy dean, I sit in a lot of meetings where what is the strategy? What are we going to do nationwide to ensure that there's not going to be, so that we can mitigate this shortage that we're anticipating? None of those sorts of conversations are happening in our state, which is one of the concerns. And also a concern is that we don't have the kind of good workforce data for pharmacy in a lot of detail similar to the physicians and nurses. So we know that there's a lot of nuances, right? So overall, it may seem, what my best guess would be, is that overall, it may seem like we're okay for now, knowing the shortage is coming, but we are already seeing in our state through anecdotal evidence and reports that in many underserved areas, in many specialty areas, employers are having a really hard time filling their positions. So those are some signs that it's going to get better before it gets, or it's going to get worse before it gets better, because that's similar to the trends that our colleagues in other states are seeing where they do have the data. So part of the reason for the center is that we can collect good data to help inform decisions and strategies for our state to mitigate shortages that would, if we just hope it gets better, may become insurmountable in the future.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, moving on to HB 1721 HD1 relating to housing, clarifies insurance, indemnification, and certain certificate of occupancy requirements for purposes of expedited permits. American Council of Engineering Companies of Hawaii in support.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Scott Hayashi. I'm representing the American Council of Engineering Companies of Hawaii. We've submitted written testimony, we're gonna stand on that testimony. But I would like to add that we're in support of housing measures across the state, anything that's gonna increase housing. I believe this bill, basically the proposed changes in this bill will help to increase the participation in the expedited permitting process. Thank you.
Thank you. Housing Hawaii's Future in support. Anyone else in person or on Zoom who'd like to testify? Okay, seeing none, members, any questions? Moving on to the next measure, HB 1641 HD1 relating to transportation. Prohibits the lease or rental of a high-speed electric device. Department of Transportation in support with comments on Zoom.
Not present.
Not present. Anyone else in person or on Zoom who'd like to testify on this measure? Okay, seeing none.
So we can't ask questions.
Okay, moving on to the next one, HB 2137 HD1 relating to artificial intelligence. Part 1 prohibits certain uses of and mandates disclosure for realistic digital imitations generated by AI. Part 2 requires the disclosure of the use of synthetic performers in advertising. Okay, DCCA Office of Consumer Affairs offering comments. Okay, Department of the Attorney General.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Ashley Tanaka. I'm the Deputy Attorney General. The department did submit comments, written comments. We did identify some areas of concern in the bill that may be subject to challenge under the First Amendment of the United States Constitution, especially in light of the recent federal court case Babylon V versus Lopez here in Federal District Court in Hawaii. We did suggest some proposed amendments to address those potential issues. Thank you. Available for questions.
Thank you so much. Department of Education and Support.
This is all the department stances.
Thank you. Office of Wellness and Resilience and Support.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Office of Wellness and Resilience stands on our testimony and available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Public Citizen in Support on Zoom. Public Citizen in Support on Zoom. You there? Okay, moving on to Catholic Charities of Hawaii in Support.
Aloha, Vice Chair. This is Betty Lou Larson with Catholic Charities Hawaii. We'll stand on our written testimony and support. Thank you.
Thank you. Young People's Alliance in Support on Zoom. Young People's Alliance. There.
Sorry, here. I'm sorry, I thought we submitted testimony for 1782, not 2137, just to clarify that.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
No worries, yeah, and I think the same was for Public Citizen as well, just to clarify as well, but
Oh, my
yeah,
apologies.
looking forward to testifying on 1782, thank you.
Okay, my mistake.
Vice Chair?
Yes, same
This
for
is
you.
Betty Lou Larson. We also were testifying on 1782. I thought maybe you'd moved on and I missed it.
No, that was my mistake. I was on the wrong page. Apologies. Okay. Hawaii State Commission on the Status of Women in Support.
Good afternoon, Yasmin Cheney for the Hawaii State Commission on the Status of Women. I stand on my written testimony in support of this measure. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in person or on Zoom who'd like to testify on HB 2137 HD1? Great, seeing none. Members, any questions?
Thank you, Chair. For the Attorney General's office, as you're making your way up here, Chair, if you don't mind cutting me some slack. We didn't get the testimony for this committee hearing until around 11:30 today. And I happen to be the vice chair of another committee, so I'm doing all the voting sheets, and then we went to the floor, and it was quite long, and then lunch, so I didn't have a chance to go over the AGs. Do you mind if she walks us through her testimony?
Oh.
Yeah. Chair?
Go ahead,
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, let's try to keep it moving though.
So we cited to a recent United States District Court, District of Hawaii case, Babylon B versus Lopez. That case enjoined enforcement of a law that was passed 2 years ago in 2024, where that law was seeking to regulate the distribution of election-based content that is materially deceptive. So we saw a lot of parallels in that law, and that the court ended up striking down that we think could potentially be struck down if this law were to pass as it's currently written. There were some potential overbreadth concerns, some potential vague concerns with some language. There's some concerns about content-based restrictions that would trigger strict scrutiny by courts. There were some portions that we thought were inconsistent with each other within the bill, so we recommended some amendments that could potentially fix those inconsistencies. We saw a potential speaker discriminatory restriction that would probably trigger strict scrutiny by courts as well. With respect to the section in the bill that is requiring disclaimers for parody or satire, the court did address a similar issue in Babylon B, saying that trying to require disclaimers would, quote, kill the joke, end quote, and basically holding that requiring a disclaimer for satire and parody was impermissible. We noted some parts of the bill that were subjective and ambiguous and potentially overbroad, which could lead to over censorship. And I believe that is basically the gist of things we pointed out that could be potentially problematic in the bill as it's currently drafted.
Great, and so thank you. It sounds like you did offer some amendments that would make some parts be constitutional, but you didn't, but can I just clarify, there were some parts that you did not offer amendments to that?
I believe with every issue, we did try to suggest an amendment, whether it's just to delete problematic portions of the bill or to reword it or to add definitions for further clarity.
Okay, thank you very much.
So while you're up there, on the very last page, on page 5, actually almost the very last section, the sentence of page 5, it says -5A1, so it reads, a realistic digital imitation of an individual is used in violation of section -2. Our HMSO guy just is asking if you meant instead of is used to be is published, since you're using is published at other points in your testimony, or did you mean to use the word used there? You seem to have corrected that, or tried to correct that in other portions to the publication, not the use.
I believe we did intend to use the word use, but that is a fair question since in previous parts of the testimony we were suggesting using the word publish in instead of words that are currently used in the bill. But publish would probably be also a good alternative.
Okay, so it'd be appropriate to use publish there instead.
I believe so.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, moving on to HB 1782 HD1 relating to artificial intelligence for the protection of minors, establishes safeguards, protections, oversight and penalties for interactions between minors and artificial intelligence companion systems or conversational artificial intelligence services. And the DCCA Office of Consumer Affairs offering comments.
Good afternoon again, Raji Tolanti on behalf of Office of Consumer Protection. We will stand on our testimony to offer comments.
Thank you. Attorney General offering comments.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Deputy Attorney General Ashley Tanaka. We did submit comments for this bill. We do support the purpose of the bill, but we did suggest some amendments to further strengthen the bill and protect it against potential First Amendment challenges. Thank you, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you. Department of Education in support.
The department stands in support.
Office of Wellness and Resilience in support. Apologies.
We stand on our testimony.
Thank you. Okay, Public Citizen in support on Zoom.
Hello, I'm Nick. I'm with Public Citizen. I work on state policy with artificial intelligence. I'm also a certified peer specialist. I'm testifying in strong support of HB 1782. So chatbots are technology that's designed to simulate human interaction. And this bill covers chatbots that are intended to foster emotional entanglement. These chatbots are becoming very widely used, and just last year there was a national report that showed almost 75% of teens using AI companions, and 50% were using them regularly. There are also AI toys for very young children, which gets these children hooked on these toys at a young age and this kind of technology at a young age. And we've also seen many different controversies when it comes to these AI toys for children. But these tech companies, they design AI chatbots to maximize user engagement. And these chatbots will have the tendency to agree with everything the user says, even if it's something that's harmful. And my experience as a mentor, I've seen that teens need pushback during these very high intense moments. But that's just something that AI can't do. It goes against their programming, which is to maximize user engagement. And the American Psychological Association has also expressed significant concern that this tech can harm children's social emotional development and cause dependency. So this is also something I've experienced as a mentor, which is where some of my mentees have actually expected me to behave kind of like a chatbot, which makes it especially difficult to help them, especially during these high intense situations. So there are 19 other states that have taken a similar approach to HB 1782 by restricting the use of minors for this technology. But these safeguards are urgently needed to keep the children of Hawaii safe. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Catholic Charities Hawaii in support. On Zoom. Okay. Young People's Alliance in support on Zoom.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Mick Tobin. I'm 23 years old and the co-founder of the Young People's Alliance, a youth-led bipartisan organization that empowers students across the country to reclaim the American dream. I'm here because I worry about the future of my generation. We've already been isolated by addictive social media platforms, and now those same big tech companies want us to give up on human connection altogether and replace our friends with manipulative AI companions. These companions are designed to make a young person believe that a chatbot is the only person who truly understands them. They pull users into emotional echo chambers that erode the skills we need to form real relationships, build communities, and live fulfilling lives. This is not the future my generation deserves. This bill establishes safeguards. It prohibits AI companion systems from using addictive and manipulative features with minors, like simulating romantic relationships or encouraging emotional dependency. The bill draws a clear line between general conversational tools and systems designed to simulate emotional relationships, between tools that use your data to make personal recommendations versus ones that say that they miss you and that ask you why you have been gone so long. My generation imagines a future where we can make friends, understand each other better, start families, and form meaningful relationships that shape our lives. Mark Zuckerberg is on the record advocating for a future where every person's best friend and romantic partner is a chatbot, where instead of turning to the people around us, we turn to a screen. And he is building that future right now. Young people don't have the luxury of waiting years for policy, while these AI companions are rapidly becoming normalized because of big tech companies forcing them onto children, similar to how they did the same with social media for the past 10 years with little safety guardrails. As you consider your vote on a bill that affects young people, I hope that my voice and the 2,000 plus students I represent paints a picture of why this is so important to us and why action is needed today. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Transparency Coalition in support on Zoom.
Hi, my name's Jay Jessima, and I'm representing the Transparency Coalition, along with my colleague Steve, who will also be on in a bit. I just want to address 2 points. We work with multiple states, over 20 states this year on passing similar bills. We were also helpful in passing Senate Bill 243 in California last year, which was the nation's first chatbot regulation for minors and others. I think the two things I want to flag, one is a self-reported study from OpenAI that was published in October of 2025 that showed that well over 500,000 people using OpenAI's ChatGPT system experienced some sort of psychological episode, and over 1 million had other types of psychological harms as a result of using chatbots as companions. The other thing I wanted to address briefly was the First Amendment. I realize the AG's office has probably a lot more expertise in this, but we run into these arguments frequently. Last we checked, robots do not have free speech rights, and hopefully, just to keep in mind that in this case, this is not a user speech that the chatbot is producing, but is generating based on an algorithm that is statistical in nature. And then the disclosures that are being asked for in this bill are also fall into, we believe, the intermediate scrutiny category that are uncontroversial, accurate, and reasonably related to substantial government interests. I strongly urge you all to pass this bill, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Hawaii Children's Action Network speaks in support.
Aloha, we support this bill. Our organization is dedicated to the safety and welfare and healthy development of our state's children, and we are concerned, as many of you are, about AI chatbots and minors. So we mahalo you for hearing this bill and for getting ahead or catching up to this problem and keeping our children safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in person or online to testify? Members, any questions?
Yes, I'm online yet to testify. I'm also with the Transparency Coalition and would like to echo first off what my colleague Jay had to say. I just wanted to add on yet an additional piece of information that I know Mick mentioned earlier, that Zuckerberg is testifying today in California. And he, of course, is the CEO of Meta. And one of the things we need to keep in mind is that one of his points of testimony is that they've been doing a lot of work in this area to secure our children, to ensure that the products are not addictive. I think the preponderance of evidence that's being heard in that trial today speaks very directly to the impacts that this type of technology can have on the most vulnerable in our population. And I think it behooves the state of Hawaii right now to consider taking action now, while it can, with some very effective legislation as we see it, to really safeguard our kids as they grow into this new landscape that's created with these chatbots, and really put protections in place to make sure that they're able to flourish rather than experience harm at the hands of these tech giants. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any questions?
Chair, same questions for the Attorney General's office regarding the First Amendment concerns and then the recommendations. Do you mind just going over those?
Sure, so I believe in page 2 of our testimony is where we cover some potential First Amendment concerns with this bill. We pointed to some parts of the bill that are attempting to regulate speech, so that that would probably trigger strict scrutiny by courts. There was a US Supreme Court case, Free Speech Coalition Incorporated versus Paxton, from just last year, where laws trying to prevent minors from accessing sexually explicit content would be subject to intermediate scrutiny instead. So we did distinguish the sections in this bill that would probably meet only intermediate scrutiny by courts versus strict if they were trying to prevent minors from being exposed to or accessing sexually explicit content. Did note, however, that there weren't definitions for sexually explicit content or sexualized depictions in this bill, so we did recommend that adding definitions would improve clarity and help with enforceability of this bill. I believe that was most of the First Amendment concerns that we addressed in our testimony.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm letting this go right now, but we shouldn't be asking people to just repeat their testimony too. I mean, if you had a specific question about her testimony, their testimony is extensive and quite good. But
Yes, it's very dense.
if you have questions about it, that's one thing. Asking her to repeat her entire testimony, I think is not appropriate. It's
I don't
a
think
beautiful
she-
waste of our time.
Thank you, Chair. I don't think she actually repeated her entire
don't care.
testimony.
If she
And
cares, it's
Also,
not
it is
gonna
very
be-
dense, as you mentioned,
I
and I
understand
only
that.
got the testimony at
You
11:30
had time
today.
to read it. So if you had specific questions, that's what this is for. It's not asking people to repeat everything.
I didn't ask her to repeat everything, just the constitutional. Thank you.
Okay. Anyway, thank you for your testimony. If you specifically in your testimony, you mentioned that heightened scrutiny is going to be imposed for basically trying to restrict certain kinds of free speech. Is that applicable here though, when the speaker, for lack of a better term, is a machine, or is the speech attributed to the organization that is hosting or putting forth this chatbot?
I think it would be more attributable to the latter that you said, the company hosting the actual artificial intelligence companion system or conversational service. We've seen in other cases that the courts have said that entities such as corporations, social media platforms do still retain First Amendment protected speech rights.
The platform itself does, but would the chatbot function in it retain speech rights? Or I guess, is the speech attributable to a company? And if it is, are they going to be liable for that speech as well?
I think that's a really fair question, and I think that is probably one of the biggest difficulties we're all facing now, trying to regulate these companies, these outputs, and how to best do it without triggering strict scrutiny by courts or just triggering challenges that we won't be able to defend in court. I think it is a little gray area, but I think to err on the side of caution, it would be wise to see the potential for challenges in court, and even if it's arguably the chatbot's speech instead of the company hosting the chatbot, I think that's still unclear.
Okay, so your suggestions here, because there are quite a few of them, it is really just erring on the side of caution rather than acknowledging free speech for a chatbot.
I mean, I think that the source maybe isn't so much the focus as just laws trying to regulate speech. Just the output is more maybe the focus that is going to be met with strict scrutiny by courts, just that when states are trying to regulate speech in whatever form, it's going to probably trigger some constitutional challenges.
Yeah, maybe we should invite them and figure this out. Anyway, it's a difficult question. I appreciate your response.
Thank you for the questions.
Moving on to HB 2360, HD1 relating to paid family leave. By January 1st, 2029 requires the Department of Labor and Industrial Relations to establish a family and medical leave insurance program and begin collecting payroll contributions to finance payment of benefits. Department of Labor and Industrial Relations in opposition.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, and members. Joanne Bittenhoff representing the department. The department did add that it supports the goal of strengthening Hawaii's workforce through family and medical leave. However, the bill moves ahead of the work already directed by the legislators from last year's session under Senate Concurrent Resolution 145 and the appropriated funds to fund a actuarial study and a legal analysis. These steps are essential to carefully design a financially sustainable program that aligns with Hawaii's needs. The department has begun this process, including securing a consultant to prepare a request for proposal for the actuarial and legal work. Until these fundamental studies are complete, we respectfully recommend that you defer this measure. Thank you for the opportunity to testify, and I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you. Hawaii Department of Taxation offering comments.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Robert Abdullah, DOTAX. DOTAX stands on its written testimony providing comments. I'm here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Hawaii State Commission on the Status of Women offering in support.
Good afternoon, Yasmin Cheney for the Commission on the Status of Women. I stand on my written testimony in support. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Department of Human Resources Development offering comments. Hawaii State Coalition Against Domestic Violence in support on Zoom.
Yes, aloha Chair, Vice Chair Committee members, Angelina Mercado, Hawaii State Coalition Against Domestic Violence, and we stand on our written testimony in strong support of this measure. Mahalo.
Thank you. Hawaii Public Health Institute in support.
Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, Committee members. I'm Chris Kaufman from the Hawaii Public Health Institute. We're in support of this proposal. I'd like to personally thank Chair Matayoshi, the work that he did when he's chair of the Labor Committee, which has significantly advanced this issue to the point that it's at today. In a state that's rooted in aloha, no parent should have to choose between bonding with a newborn and paying rent, and no worker should have to choose between caring for an ill loved one and keeping their job. And the evidence is clear about family leave. Family leave improves maternal and infant health. It reduces premature birth and low birth weight, lowers hospital readmissions. It supports healthier outcomes for both the parents and children. It also strengthens economic stability, reduces poverty risk, and increases household income during the most vulnerable time in a child's life. There's something that I learned recently that really crystallized the necessity of these programs this past year. The most overrepresented age group in our state's houseless population is 0 to 1, and the next most overrepresented is 1 to 5. And that, I believe, should stop us in our tracks. When babies are facing homelessness, the issue isn't just housing. It is economic instability. It's things like the lack of a social safety net that paid families need to provide. It's a system that doesn't support families at the very moment that they need it most. Family leave is not a luxury. It's a public health necessity. It's the infrastructure that allows our families to not just survive, but to thrive. And I just want to say that in response to the Department of Labor, we think the working group's work is tremendous. We think it should be ongoing. Our understanding is that this bill takes a lot of the concepts that have been worked on in the working group and brings them into public light so that the public can provide comment and have a public conversation about some of those concepts. So we hope that you'll keep this bill moving forward so that we can continue having that conversation as session moves along. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. NFIB Hawaii chapter in opposition.
Chair, we'll stand on our written testimony in opposition.
Thank you. AARP Hawaii in support.
Good afternoon. I'm Audrey Suganafda from AARP, and AARP stands on its testimony in strong support. We want to really take this time to express our appreciation to the legislature and to the Department of Labor and all the working groups that are involved in this particular matter. This program is so important, and the impact that's going to have when it finally gets implemented will be just tremendous to all our working families. Chris talked about the impact to young families with children. I'm talking from the Kapuna. We have 260,000 caregivers, and 60% of them are working. And we know that 1/3 of them are in actually sandwich generation. So they have children, they're taking care of their children as well as their older adults, and in some cases, grandparents as well. So this is a very important program. We look forward to seeing it successfully be launched. And again, thank you so much for keeping this program up and going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Hawaii Government Employees Association in support. Hawaii Transportation Association in opposition on Zoom. Not present. Hawaii Children's Action Network speaks in support.
Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. I'm Nicole Wu, and thank you for hearing this bill. We've been trying to have a paid family medical leave here for many years. We represent many parents with small children who are struggling after having a child to balance work and life and to afford to live here, and also, childcare if one of their children is ill or if a parent has a spouse who becomes ill. This is just such an important program. Every other developed nation has it. To address some of the opposition, we really believe this helps businesses afford to take care of their employees. Rep. Matayoshi, you and I worked on this bill when you were labor chair to turn the private TDI system, which is a significant cost for employers, and roll it into a public paid family and medical leave. Basically, TDI would become the M for medical in paid family and medical leave. We've done some research since you were labor chair. For example, my organization uses ProService for our HR, and we pay about 0.5% of payroll just for TDI. And ProService covers probably the most employers in the state, so that's a pretty common amount. We also did an actuarial analysis with Vanderbilt University last year that shows a full paid family medical leave program, which adds caring for a baby after you have one, caring for a sick family member. That would cost about 0.7% of payroll. So a little bit more than the current TDI. And employers get to share that cost with their employees. So employers could be spending 0.35% rather than 0.5%, actually saving money. And they also don't have to cover their employees after they've had a child. They get to save that money because the state will be paying them. So we really, hope to have a robust discussion with businesses and explain that we really think that this will reduce their costs because they will no longer have to pay for TDI. And it will be an easier system for all employees and families in the state. So thank you for hearing this bill and keeping the discussion going.
Thank you. Hawaii Appleseed Center for Law and Economic Justice in support. Joel Edwards, individual in support on Zoom.
Aloha.
Hi.
Sorry about that. Aloha, my name is Joelle Edwards. I'm a resident of Kauai and a small business owner. And I serve on the Paid Family Medical Leave Working Group, bringing the perspective of small businesses. I stand in strong support of this measure, and I am speaking not in theory, but from lived experience. Nearly 20 years ago, my husband became critically ill and was in and out of the ICU for several months. Our lives revolved around hospital rooms, specialist consultations, and the very real fear that we might lose him. At that time, we were living in a state that had paid family and medical leave. That program saved us. It protected our mortgage, it protected our financial stability, and most importantly, it gave us peace of mind in the middle of a crisis that was already overwhelming. Because of that support, I was able to focus on recovery, not on whether we would lose our home or worse. We moved to Kauai soon after his recovery to start a new life and build our life here. So now, as a resident and a small business owner here, I know too many families who do not have that same protection. They are forced to choose between caring for someone they love and keeping the paycheck that keeps the roof over their heads. That is not a choice anyone should have to make. A statewide program spreads responsibility through small payroll contributions into a shared fund, and it protects families' financial collapse and gives small businesses stability and predictability. I also want to add the cost of TDI and the exchange of that is significant for a small business. Paid family and medical leave is not an abstract policy. It is compassion, it is dignity, and it is peace of mind when families need it the most. I want to thank Chair for hearing this today, and I urge you to support this measure. Mahalo.
Thank you. Chloe Vieira Villanueva in support.
Hello, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. Opua Ana Ko'oinoa, Yemakuaval, Ekumuval. My name is Pua'ena and I am a proud parent of a NICU warrior and an early learning professional. You have my written testimony, but I'm here to tell you part 2 of my story because I'm here again from last year. So I'm here because of my NICU warrior. Right? We were in the hospital for 3 years, and then the last year in part 2, when we were juggling our medically complex child, we were also struggling to care for our elderly sick parent. Right? That sandwich generation, as other people were mentioning. We went through 2 crises and we didn't have that safety net, right? That would have helped us through that. And so I'm here because of them, because he recently passed away. So my wife and I were literally choosing between food, income for food, and unpaid leave to be with him during that time. So I mahalo you, Chair, and I mahalo this committee and everyone sharing their care stories. It's really important to share our care stories, and hopefully we'll never have to share them again, right? Because we'll have that safety net. So mahalo for hearing my testimony, and mahalo for moving this bill forward. Please pass this measure. Mahalo.
Thank you, Pua'ena. ACLU of Hawaii in support. Keopu Relitz, individual offering limits.
Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Keopu Relitz and I'm here in my personal capacity today as a mom of 3 boys under the age of 10 and as a mom who gave birth to each of those 3 boys while a state employee. You have my written testimony. I have providing comments in large part recognizing what a couple folks have already recognized, that this conversation is ongoing and there is a working group, but insisting that parent voices be at the table. And so I am working with Rep. Sayama to make sure that we can provide our voices and our input so that we can have the best program possible. But I do want to leave you with the story of my second son very quickly. As I mentioned, I gave birth to him while I was a state employee. I was able to take advantage of paid leave and be covered in that time. But at about 6 months old, very unexpectedly from a virus that's pretty common, he landed in the ICU, in the pediatric ICU. And because of that, over the course of the next month, we were either in the pediatric ICU or the regular level of care. And in the hospital, I had to at some point choose whether or not I was going to continue to ignore the emails and the phone calls and the text messages that I was getting from my office. And it wasn't because I didn't care. It was because I had simply run out of paid leave. And I had to choose between whether or not we could afford to leave this hospital or to stay at the hospital bed or have to leave so we could afford the food. Because when you're a state employee, at least at that time, when you take unpaid leave, it's not just about whether or not I'm going to get a paycheck. It's also about how much more I can pay in the health insurance. If I'm out full time, I'm also going to have to pay additional premiums. And then that's also taking into consideration the retirement issues that are down the line, if you can even fathom thinking about 20 years down the line. So I just want to share that with you folks, that these kinds of really practical experiences are important to creating the best program possible, and leave you with that as you consider this bill moving forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Leilani Kailiapa, individual offering in support on Zoom. Anyone else in person or on Zoom who would like to testify on this measure?
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Tuli Tafai on behalf of EPW. In past years, we've actually opposed these measures, but today we actually stand in support. They've addressed some of our concerns and we stand on our testimony in support.
Any other testifiers? Okay. Members, any questions?
Tui. Is there any collective bargaining issue here? I'm clearly in support of
I'm supportive because actually there's an opt-in for our members, and so that was the biggest concern we had with prior measures, and I don't believe it would.
Okay, thank you.
For DLIR. Thank you for the status update on the working group. I was wondering if you could share a timeline for completion of the studies.
Yes. So right now we have hired a consultant to write the RFP, and so that work should be done in April. And then what we're looking at is going out and securing the RFP, and so hopefully we can have that legal consultant secured by June. And then they will complete the legal analysis and the actuarial study and have that so that we can submit the report to you for the next legislative session.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. A question for actually HCAM. Ms. Wu, I think the HD1 version that we're considering now reinstates the TDI, and so it feels a little redundant with the, is that something that we should try to amend and remove, moving it forward?
Yeah, that was a change that was made at the last hearing. I believe there's been some pushback within the SCR 145 working group about undoing our private TDI system. And one of the comments was, don't fix something that's not broken. Although I think if we were to have a conversation about TDI, there are many parents who would say TDI is broken. So I believe that's why that part of the bill, taking away the TDI law, that part of the bill was removed from this HD1 draft. But it does make the bill a little contradictory. You are both attorneys and probably could figure that out better than I can. But I don't know
If I can ask
I
another.
request that you pick that up. I don't know, Rep. Matayoshi, if you had time to notice that part was taken out in the HD1.
Can I ask
One more question.
Can I ask? Oh, actually, and so you cited a report that, I don't know if you paid for, your organization paid for this report?
The actuarial analysis was
Yes.
done last year. It's on the Paid Leave Hawaii website.
Okay.
It was done by Vanderbilt University.
Okay.
They did not charge us for it. They have a center that does research on these types of programs.
Okay.
And they don't do it with every state, but they agreed to run an actuarial analysis for us.
For Hawaii specifically?
Yes, for Hawaii specifically, looking at our workers, our incomes, our demographics, the types of leaves that we would take. They based it on the 14 other states that have this program and, run the numbers based on that.
Thank you, then Chair, for DLAR. Have you had a chance to review that report and the analysis? Because it sounds like that's something you're working on or that you're gonna put on RFP. So will it inform the actuarial report that you do based on what's missing?
So there are some gaps that were identified in those reports, as well as there was other reports that were submitted to the department and to the working group. And so the consultant that we will hire will take a look at all of the reports and identify Hawaii needs. Hawaii has some very unique needs. We have a high concentration of small businesses, but one of the reasons for the actuarial study was also a legal analysis, because Hawaii is very unique with our prepaid healthcare law. We have an ERISA exemption, the only ERISA exemption that states have, and it has to do with our prepaid, and we do not want to risk losing that ERISA exemption. So there's a couple of areas that we have this analysis and this legal review to be done on. So it's not just looking at, although it's very important, the financial stability of a new program for Hawaii, but it's more than that. It's a bit more complex.
Thanks.
Joanne, so you said that the timeline for the consultant, the report would be coming to us by the beginning of the next legislative session in 2027.
That's the goal.
But I mean, I kind of want legislation to be introduced based on that in 2027. Is there going to be any preview or something that either the labor chair or I can work on to do a new bill for 2027 if this one doesn't go through?
That's what we would like. So we will work with, we haven't even hired the consultant yet. So that's part of the scope of work.
Okay, so the goal
For
for the
them
consultant is to develop legislation to introduce in the 2027. Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
that's part of all of that. Thank you.
Members, any other questions? Okay, moving on to the last measure, HB 1965 HD1, relating to primary care. It establishes the primary care providers working group within the state health planning and development Agency to address issues relating to and develop recommendations for the stabilization of primary care services in Hawaii. State Health Planning and Development Agency offering comments.
Good afternoon, Jack Lewin from SHPTA. This bill started out as a very complicated bill with increasing funding for primary care by 3% a year for the next 3 years. It had a bunch of other features in it that I would have preferred not be included, and down coding issues and a lot of complexity. But the primary care issue is really important. And I know we're at this working group stage right now from where the bill was. And I know that my physician colleagues are going to think it's just a stalling technique rather than really addressing the concern. So I wanted to say this, every one of us in this room today, all of us back here seated and all of you know we have a primary care crisis in our state. And it's not just, it is partly workforce shortage, but the workforce shortage is an exacerbation of the problem with primary care. Okay, primary care, it's not only an access problem. Medical students at JAPSM aren't going into primary care. And we have a 45% higher than expected per capita expenditure on ED visits for this very reason. So this is a real problem in front of us. California has just gone to 15% mandated part of the premium, not the expenses part, not the administrative part, the medical loss ratio, which is the healthcare part of that. And it's for the same reason that we're here, but they're maybe a little ahead of us. Every one of the OECD nations, except for the United States, has already gotten to this place. So this is a very important issue that I'm hoping somehow there's some magic way this year in this session we can resuscitate something to even think about this. Because if the work group had also a commitment to getting some kind of funding support for those practices that are going to go under, that would really be important because practices are going under, particularly in neighbor islands. I will say this, there's no primary care problem in Kaiser Permanente because they put the money out to hire qualified people and they have their full contingent of primary care workers. They're going to tell you that they need even more. But I just want to say that primary care is really critical. We'll do the work group, we'll take it seriously, and we'll work with the plans on the issue. But I'm very concerned that even one more year of delay of trying to get some kind of partial remedy is sort of dangerous for us as a state. Thank you.
Thank you. AARP Hawaii in support.
Extend our testimony and support. Thank you.
Thank you. Hawaii Medical Service Association in support.
Good afternoon, Chair Matayoshi, Vice Chair Grandanelli, members of the committee, Walden on behalf of HMSC. Echoing a lot of the sentiments that Dr. Lewin had shared. We really appreciate the previous committee's approach to a working group. While some may say it's a stalling tactic, I think that last session with the prior authorization working group, a lot of positive things have come out. Having this collaborative conversation with people, and it may not necessarily have to be a legislative fix, but finding consensus, having those voices at the table that we feel is very important. Thank you for the opportunity to testify in support.
Thank you. Hawaii Association of Health Plans with comments.
Thank you, Chair. We'll stand on our written testimony providing comments.
Thank you. Waianae Coast Comprehensive Health Center in support. Oh, not present, sorry about that. Dr. Clara Krebs, individual in support on Zoom. Not present. Anyone else in person or on Zoom who'd like to testify on this measure? Seeing none, members, any questions?
Take a brief recess. Alright, members reconvening, first up on the agenda is HB 20 relating to lava zone insurance. Chair's recommendation is to defect the date, but to note in the committee report the concerns by the Insurance Council and the Insurance Commissioner. Any members, any comments? Okay.
Chair, I'm sorry, I'll be voting no, and I'm gonna cite the commissioner, the insurance commissioner's testimony.
Okay, we'll note that you trust the Insurance Commissioner in the committee report. Any other comments? Okay, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on HB 20, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Representative Chun?
Aye.
Representative Iligan?
Aye.
Representative Ichiyama? Excused. Representative Kong?
Aye.
Representative Lowen? Excused. Representative Martin?
With reservations.
Representative Tam?
Aye.
Representative Pierrick?
Actually, no, this.
No? Okay. Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Moving on to HB 2612 relating to mortgages. We're going to be deferring decision-making on this measure to tomorrow's 2:05 PM agenda on Thursday, February 19th in this conference room 329. Next up, HB 2404, relating to cooperative associations. It looks like we can already do this. I'm for co-ops, but it doesn't look like we need the big change that the bill is suggesting. Chair's recommendation is to delete the preamble. We're going to be modifying this bill to remove the word consumer from 421C from the phrase cooperative, consumer cooperative association, just for clarity throughout 421C. But it sounds like from the testimony from DCCA that hopefully this can be taken care of in the bylaws through this more general chapter. Members, any, and defecting the date. Members, any comments? Yeah, we're deleting the preamble. Any comments? Okay, Vice Chair, for the vote.
Voting on HB 2404, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments, noting the excused absences of Representative Ichiyama and Representative Lowen, unless otherwise noted, for the remainder of the measures on the agenda, unless otherwise noted. Are there any representatives voting no? Any with reservations? Okay, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Okay, moving on to HB 2459 HD1 relating to the Food and Product Innovation Network. Chair's recommendation is to make a slight change. We want to just on page 5 make it clear that the surveys being referenced are from DCCA and DPED. Members, any comments? Okay, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on HB 2459 HD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Any representatives voting no? Any with reservations? Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Moving on to HB 2194 HD1 relating to lay. We'll be adding a provision that lay sellers must disclose to buyers the state of the United States or the foreign country of origin of the plant materials and natural objects, including but not limited to shells that comprise the lay that is being sold. We're also going to change the page 3, line 7 to make it clear that state executive agency only applies to the executive branch. It's a little ambiguous in the definition there. Also recommend amending page 3, line 17 to 19. There's a 90% requirement there. It's not clear what the 90% is. Is it weight? Is it cost? It's not very clear. So we're going to just clarify that this is going to be 90% of the material cost for the lay. Members, any comments? Okay, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on HB 2194 HD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Any noes?
No vote.
Any reservations?
There's a reservation.
Thank you, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you, members. Moving on to HB 1880 HD1 relating to pesticides. I've been pronouncing Telone wrong the entire time. I thought it was Telone. I am concerned about the farmers. I guess it's just Dole really using it. I am concerned about the impact on ag, but I'm also concerned about the effect of this pesticide. I'm going to keep it moving, defecting the date, but just note in the, well, I just wanted to know, not in the committee report, but just generally, the concerns that I have about this pesticide in particular, but also noting that there doesn't seem to be any alternative. And if there is an alternative that's worse, I don't necessarily want to ban this one and then force them to use the other one. So really just affecting the date here. Members, any comments? Okay, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on HB 1880 HD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Any representatives voting no? Any with reservations? Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Moving on to HB 2284 HD1 relating to energy assistance. Very good program. I really hope we can afford it. Chair's recommendation is to pass this as is. We'll be noting a $1.5 million implementation costs estimated in the committee report. Members, any comments? Okay, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on HB 2284 HD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Any noes? Okay, no for Peric. Any reservations? Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you, members. Moving on to HB 1969 HD1 relating to colorectal cancer. Chair's recommendation is to adopt DOH's proposed amendments. That's fine. And then we'll also note the estimated cost of 1.8 million in the committee report. And the recommendation also establish one full-time equivalent position to administer the screening program. But we want to bring this in line with current federal suggestions, I guess, and make sure that it's protected statewide. So that's requiring coverage of the, if there's a positive test for the colonoscopy, and then also saying that there can be no copay or any other amount charged after that for that colonoscopy. Members, any comments? Okay, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on HB 1969 HD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Any noes?
No vote.
Any reservations? Recommendation adopted.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to HB 2458 HD1 relating to surveillance pricing. Interesting testimony that because of SNAP, the way it is already, it's very difficult to do surveillance pricing on SNAP without violating federal law. Still, I do want to keep this measure moving. To try to avoid SNAP conflicts, we're going to be amending the bill to apply to food as defined under the Food, Drug, and Cosmetics Act, but taking out animal food and food at restaurants. We'll be placing this in HRS 481B instead, that chapter, and also amending the penalty provision to make it more consistent with 480-3.1. Members, any comments? Yep.
Chair, thank you for moving this bill forward. I just want to say that I had a different reading of the SNAP regulations around surveillance pricing. The way I look at it, as consumers who don't get SNAP, we will benefit from those stores that accept SNAP because you can't do surveillance on them, and then therefore you can't do surveillance on regular consumers.
No,
So
that's a
I
fair
think
point.
of it as a plus.
Yeah, well, that's a fair point. Different perspective. Members, any other comments? Okay, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on HB 2458 HD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Are there any representatives voting no? Any with reservations? Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Okay, moving on to HB 1546 HD1 relating to health insurance. The chair really appreciates the previous chair's work on this measure. In discussions with her, it sounds like we should keep this moving. It is slightly different than the Senate version, so we want to keep both versions moving. Hopefully we can get something to pass this year. It's a very badly needed bill. So chair's recommendation is to pass this as is. Members, any comments? Okay, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on HB 1546 HD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass as is. Any representatives voting no? Any with reservations? Recommendation adopted.
Okay, moving on to HB 2161 HD1 relating to pharmacy. There, I think is a slight error in this on page 6, lines 13 to 20. It's going to be put in session laws as it stands, so we're going to codify it instead so that it lasts longer than the session laws. This is a program we want to keep going. So we'll be placing that language on page 6, lines 13 to 20, on page 5, line 4 instead. Also in the committee reports, we're going to insert the amounts proposed by the Hawaii Pharmacists Association for the blanks, but that'll be in the committee reports, not in the version of the bill that's going to move on to the next committee. Members, any comments? Okay, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on HB 2161 HD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Any voting no? With reservations? Recommendation adopted.
Okay, next up is HB 1721 HD1 relating to housing. Chair's recommendation is to pass this as is. This is really kind of supposed to be a bit of a cleanup of an error from a bill passed last session. Members, any comments? Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on HB 1721 HD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass as is. Anyone voting no? With reservations? Recommendation adopted.
Moving on to HB 1641 HD1 relating to transportation. This is our e-bikes bill. Chair's recommendation is to, on page 1, lines 11 to 12, to add sidewalks to the prohibition, just to make it very clear that e-bikes are also not allowed to be ridden on public sidewalks. Members, any comments?
I'll be voting with reservations only because I had some questions and I wasn't able to.
I'll ask. Yeah, that's fair. I kind of a little annoyed that no one showed up. Any other comments? Okay, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on HB 1641 HD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Any representatives voting no? Rep. Herrick votes no. Any with reservations?
Me.
Rep. Iwamoto. Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Okay, moving on to HB 2137 HD1 relating to artificial intelligence. Chair's recommendation is to adopt the AG's proposed amendments, except for on page 5 of their testimony, change the word used to is published, which is more consistent with the rest of their testimony requiring publication. Now, on page 6, line 9, we also want to clarify the language. It's a little ambiguous right now whether the statute of limitations is being extended for a deceased estate to 10 years. It should still be the statute of limitations that applies, but the deceased estate can, within that statute of limitations, enforce or bring an action up to 10 years after the individual's death, but after that, they won't be able to bring an action at all. But that statute of limitations should still apply. Members, any comments?
Chair, I just want to thank you for accepting the recommendations by the AG. I know they were quite comprehensive. And thank you for letting me ask those questions.
Publicly, thank you to the AGs for their hard work on this bill and the next bill. A lot of very extensive amendments, but very well taken. Members, any other comments? Okay, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on HB 2137 HD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Any representatives voting no? Representative Herrick votes no. Any with reservations? Recommendation adopted.
Okay, moving on to HB 1782 HD1 relating to artificial intelligence for the protection of minors. I want a little more time to think about this. We're going to defer decision making on this measure to tomorrow's 2:05 p.m. agenda on Thursday, February 19th in this conference room 329. Moving on to HB 2360 HD1 relating to paid family leave, a topic near and dear to my heart. I understand the hesitance for keeping TDI, but I also haven't been working on this. I passed it on to Representative Sayama to be lead on this issue. I also don't know that this is the right year to be passing this, even though I'd love for it to pass this year. We do have an actuarial study and a consultant to hire to develop a bill for the next year. That being said, I think that we should keep the conversation moving. So I do want to pass this bill as is, but I do want to note in the committee report that there is an actuarial study that's not done yet. And we are still waiting for the consultant and hopefully further legislation coming out of the working group. So recommendation, pass it as is. Members, any comments?
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to be voting with reservations specifically because the TDI is still included.
Yep, understandable. Any other comments? Okay, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on HB 2360 HD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass as is. Rep. Iwamoto voting with reservations. Are there any other reservations? And any noes? Rep. Herrick, no. recommendation is adopted.
Okay, moving on to HB 1965 HD1 relating to primary care. Chair's recommendation is to pass this measure as is. I do want to encourage the stakeholders to meet and work on this issue, even if this bill does not pass. I think it's a worthy issue, and like Dr. Lewin said, very much needed. Members, any comments? Okay, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on HB 1965 HD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass as is. Any representatives voting no? Any with reservations? Recommendation adopted.
Okay, moving on to HB 1897 relating to condominium alternative dispute resolution. Chair's recommendation is to amend by defecting the date. Members, any comments?
Chair, I just want to record my no vote based on the numerous testimonies from condo owner consumer advocates.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on HB 1897, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Noting reservations from Rep. Iwamoto. Any?
I think she's voted
Oh,
no.
no, I'm sorry about that.
Sorry about that.
No from Rep. Iwamoto. Any other no's?
No vote.
No from Rep. Pyrick. Any reservations? Chair, recommendation is adopted.
All right, last bill on the agenda, we made it, HB 1513 relating to condominiums. We're gonna be, Chair's recommendation is to blank the amounts for now. I'm gonna be putting in the committee report that it should be $7 million in the blank for HHRF and 50 million instead of the 100 million for HGIA. That was after some discussions with HGIA on this measure. Whew, too many bills. I also want to add language for the $50 million in bonds to be released in tranches by Budget and Finance and to defect the date. Members, any comments?
Chair, I'm just gonna, with reservations.
Okay. Members, any other comments? Okay, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on HB 1513, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments, noting reservations from Representative Iwamoto. Any other reservations? Any no's? Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
All right, it's still 4:59, we're adjourned.
Just shy of 3.